talk. And she gave me kind of a bulleted list of some of her concerns. And I wrote some of them in a prior written notice and put some of my thoughts on the side. So none of this that I have on the computer is set. It was just kind of like, well, it was just a management tool for me. So we have some new people on board. So how about we go through and just introduce ourselves, and you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Joe Dorado, school psychologist.
I'm Miko Fernandez. I'm the new school resource officer. I took over for Terrell Smith, so I'm here to lend whatever advice or whatever, answer any questions that I can help out with.
I'm Julie Morales, and I'm the fourth grade teacher.
I'm Vanessa Gutierrez. I'm Anthony's support broker.
Tisha Brady, mom.
Danielle Trujillo, school social worker.
Charity Smith, school nurse.
Mindy Lenow, principal.
Cynthia Golden, teacher.
Just in time.
Mandy Thrasher, SLP.
And I'm Karen. I'm the special education director. So the purpose of today's meeting is to address the concerns of Tisha Brick, mother of Anthony Brick, regarding the current BIP and reentry into school.
Yeah.
Okay. And you let me know if we need to add pieces
Yeah, I
to
will
this.
definitely do that.
Okay. And then I just put it over in the rationale side that we're meeting to address the concerns. And I really should have this up on the. And actually, in the orange folder is a copy of Anthony's BIP for everybody.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
you had asked,
Well,
and I
appreciate
was
that.
actually doing that last night and said, hey, we're on the same wavelength.
Good, yeah, no. That
So,
ESP thing,
But
Karen.
you had said addendum, and I think you meant the prior written
The
notice.
one that we had done last time when we had met, just us three.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I printed the wrong one then. I printed the one from the big meeting.
It's just a
No,
prior
no.
written notice, it wasn't
Yeah, and we can pull it up on here.
a, okay.
Do we, since we only have about an hour or so, do we have like an agenda or their main?
That's
so
kind of what I
everybody
have
can.
in here as an
Okay,
agenda.
good. So
Are
we
you
can all
ready
kind of
for that?
understand what we can need to address. Boom, 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 so we can get it done. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I went ahead and just put it in here.
Oh, okay.
So that we weren't fumbling when trying to type stuff in. So one of the first things that Tisha would like is the proposal to change wording for for who will respond to the crisis, including crisis responders and additional staff support. So those were two words that she was feeling that they weren't specific enough.
Well, it's not just me. Let's get that straight right now. There are outside inquiring agencies that are reading all of this too.
Okay, so we can't specify in a document staff member names,
I don't need names.
but we can put positions.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
By putting the CPI trained employees,
That would be
there's
very helpful.
only a small group of trained staff members. So I just put, the IP team cannot specifically name staff members in the BIP document. CPI trained employees will respond and communicate between team members at the time of crisis who will take place to determine, oh, okay, I skipped a line. CPI trained employees will respond and communicate between team members at the time of crisis as to, it should say, as to who will determine, I need to change that. So what I'm trying to,
There we go.
you want to clean that up?
Thanks.
When the CPI team is called, whoever has the best rapport with the student at that moment in time, he could be ticked off at me, so I'm not going to go in and try to calm him down. So, you know, Joe or Danielle might say, okay, I'm coming in and you're going out. So it's a very fluid piece so that we can meet what Anthony or any other student needs at that moment.
Well, I'm aware.
so,
I've been
okay.
involved in it.
So,
Again, it's
you
mostly
want me to
for
even have
others
that
that are reading
paragraph
this
in
because
there?
there's been an insinuation that there was other support that wasn't CPI trained that would be involved.
Okay, sometimes if, we are short CPI staff, they might be there timing it. But they would never be, anybody who is CPI, not CPI trained, would never lay hands on anything.
So they would just be like observing,
They would just be observing, they might be a timer, they might say, okay, the incident or note taker. Yeah, and
Okay.
we can clarify that in this
That's all I'm
paragraph. And that's the very definition of CPI
I
training.
know what it is, again, me
Okay,
personally, you don't
so
have to explain
that really
yourself to
doesn't
me.
have to be in the BIP. It's,
I'm asking nicely, please.
What do you, wait, what do you want in there? I'm here
I think
to
she's-
type and I don't understand what you want me to put.
I think she's wanting
If I could put
specifically who will be in the room during the
But it
crisis.
says
if we have-
CPI trained employees will
Yeah.
respond.
And then also, those who are not CPI trained will not have hands-on interaction, but will be there to time, to support, to take notes. Just the clarification of, for those who are in the room who are not CPI
Period.
trained. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
So, sorry, I think I'm making it worse.
She making changes?
Yeah.
Can we switch it over?
yeah.
I'm trying
so-
to. Okay.
And this is how I lost my phone yesterday, is because I switched places.
Sorry.
And the goal, just to clarify also, the CPI procedures are not to, are to avoid restraining. They're to avoid restraints, they're to protect the safety of the staff
Period.
and of the student. And if there's a need for restraining on a regular basis, then that's not,
Well, exactly,
the
that's what's
school.
been happening, so that's why I wanted to address it. Is that we have had that very thing going on, have we not?
We have.
Yes,
all
we
the
have.
What's that?
responses that
Lots of restraint.
The crisis
Yeah.
moments, Joe, lead to restraints because he is climbing on counters to harm himself, hitting staff, kicking staff he is very unaware mentally of his condition in a crisis.
He's
And
lost
so he is
control.
very
He's
violent,
lost
he's
touch
lost
with
control.
reality.
And so leading up to this, when he was here, the crisis responses have been very hands-on and deflecting, starting with, of course, all CPI methods, talking first, trying to redirect, trying to get him to a better place. But it usually ends up in a hold, in transporting him in a CPI transport. It usually ends in that. Most everyone, not all, but most. They are very intense. I mean, it's not okay, this is fine. They are very intense. They're very intense.
And I don't know if you had been informed that they had put the plywood.
Yeah, I
In the
know
other
they
room.
put
Okay.
plywood up,
Okay,
I'm aware.
okay. So, am I still connected there? I
You're
am.
still connected.
Okay, so I'm gonna
So-
hit edit so we can see what Cindy put.
I'm not
Cindy
thinking.
Golden.
Should you guys just
Yeah,
like
we need
switch
to
places?
switch.
Maybe you even leave your computer right here?
Yeah,
Does that work?
Don't need one to computer.
did you just hit,
Let me save.
actually, you have to hit,
So we don't have.
cancel editing completely.
Oh,
To
done
get
editing.
Yeah. I can do that while you move over,
It was
I promise.
Okay.
Do you want me to move this down, Karen, or scroll down? Or give you?
Yeah, yeah, you're in control of that, so.
Oh,
if
well, I
you
already
hit
made
edit
changes
this
on that
section,
one. Thank you.
Yeah, hit edit this section, and then whatever you just type in should show up.
There's one after this, so there should be one after hearing this after this.
Keep going, there we go. It's those
Oh, good,
three blocks
okay.
about placement
Okay.
at the top.
Okay,
Okay.
now I didn't finish, so what I said is, CPI trained employees will respond, non-CPI trained personnel can maintain communication between team members at the time of crisis. CPI trained personnel will determine who will take the lead in support roles. This is dependent on who has the best rapport with Anthony at that time, as it could change. Is that kind of what you wanted?
Okay, so now, the next proposal was, to clarify who is certified to respond. And I will get, a list to Tisha.
Thank you, I
Um,
appreciate
Pretty much, I think there's only like 5 people here in elementary that are trained.
that. All right, fair enough.
But we will have a training coming up. It hasn't been set yet, but that's on the agenda. So, okay. The next proposal is to change wording for when, oh, you moved it up. Change wording for the use of police support. And we can do that, it's in the 3rd section of the crisis plan. So it's kind of so the BIP is broken up into interventions that we're gonna do before we get to crisis. And the crisis plan is the last piece of it. Joe probably has my highlighted piece. And there are highlighters in the middle of the table. So it's at the very bottom of page 2, sorry. And right now, it reads, if parent has not already been contacted, she will be contacted. Law enforcement may be called for support if necessary, and administration will be informed. So we can easily put in school resource officer or law enforcement if SRO is unavailable to respond.
No,
Is that,
Well, I
do
know
you
that
want to
you-
address that?
She didn't,
no.
in the
So
meeting,
parent
she
doesn't
didn't
agree?
want them called, because when we've talked also, that the only time she could not be here to respond is if she was dead or dying.
No, literally, in a coma
Right,
or
yeah, and I have
dead.
that in the next, I didn't write it like you were dead or dying, because I couldn't do that. But, do you want, so if parent has not already been contacted, she will be contacted. Law enforcement may be called for support if necessary. So it's not a, you know, if you're in Albuquerque and he's already to the point where we need more support, that may be when we need to call in the SRO.
Maybe I can interject here real quick. I don't think there's actually, I don't think it's very legal to put any kind of language like that would restrict you from calling law enforcement for anything. I mean, if you feel like you're in danger, you feel like somebody else is in danger, you call. I mean, I think, you know, where law enforcement comes in is separate from the school. So you guys, you know, have your own plans and stuff of that nature, but I just want to make it super clear that we don't function under any of this stuff. So I mean, it would be whoever comes. And I just want to point out that we, as municipal police officers, have the least amount of jurisdictional control over who responds. So it would be usually me, because I'm here Tuesday through Friday, 7 to 5. But like I said, if the sheriff's office wanted to respond, that's up to them. If they wanted to take over whatever situation is here, they have the opportunity and the jurisdiction to do so. And above that, we do have state police in the area. We have 2 or 3 state police officers that are stationed out here. They hear the same calls we do. Everything gets dispatched to the same center. So, I mean, there's no way to control who comes. There's really not. I'll do my best to make sure that I'm here, because obviously I'm here and I understand a little bit of what's going on, but there's no way to do that.
So then do we?
So,
when would,
I think May
Sorry.
would,
Or we're-
I think,
yeah,
I think
mess
May
around.
would be a good word.
Yes.
so
Or
if,
law enforcement will be called if necessary, or if,
So what are your intentions if you call law enforcement?
safety,
Safety.
really, yeah,
What
they're
safety,
not,
what, you wanna have them removed? You wanna have them arrested?
no, he's not
Then
going to be
what is your
arrested.
support?
Just extra support, another person who has some training on how to deal with students who may be becoming violent.
Training.
Right, because I can't call on a teacher across the hall who hasn't had CPI training.
Mhm.
So it's just an additional person who can support us. And, you know, the next step would be, you know, if we really feel that he's being violent toward himself,
Mhm.
and it's, like you said, in dire situation, we can't get a hold of you, we would need to call an ambulance.
And if an ambulance is called, they'll 99% of the time send us to, so.
So,
So I guess maybe for Tisha's clarification, if we call law enforcement, what does that look like for Anthony in that situation? Like, what happens?
Well, they just said it.
Well,
right.
it just depends on the situation. I mean, obviously, we're not here, I'm here to help. So when I respond, my first priority is just like you said, safety. Safety of the staff, safety of your son, safety of the other children. And every situation is gonna be different. We had a situation here this morning, and it consisted of me walking around, following a kid through the halls, and until he was able to be picked up and whatever. So we have, obviously, every situation is different. So with the behavior of whoever we're dealing with, our behavior changes. So it just depends on what's going on.
So when he goes to the place that he often goes, which is completely out of control, then what?
It depends. It depends. I mean, I just wanna make, so how old is he?
He's 10.
10. So 10 in the state of New Mexico is old enough to be charged with a crime. If it comes to that,
No,
that's
right there.
that's
We're
what will
done.
happen.
but
We're done.
that's
We're done.
mom's fear. So.
Well, see, and I have to kind of like set a standard because, if you're a 42-year-old male, whether you have behavioral problems or whatever problems you may have, you commit a crime, you get charged with that crime.
If you're under normal functioning, yes.
No, I mean, that's for anyone.
Your own chief disputed that, with all due respect, and said that if he's mentally ill, you cannot charge him.
Tisha?
Well,
And if we're gonna go that route, then we might as well just stop here.
Well, we don't
So
have to
that's-
stop, I can explain.
Okay.
So it's difficult to it's not difficult to charge people with mental illness, it's difficult to convict people with mental illness. We treat, obviously we treat those with mental illness a little bit differently, but as far as charges go, we do the same thing.
I'm not even willing to
Arrests are made.
subject him to it, not even willing.
But we're not talking about.
Yeah, this is
the
only
kind of
if he
action
hurts
that would-
someone.
But he
if
does. We have a lot of documentation about that.
Well,
So
there's,
therefore, I'm not gonna subject that kid to that. I will not.
and at the same time, we cannot subject the rest of the
Then I
students to
guess we
be.
go nowhere, and this meeting is pointless.
I wanna just throw out there that it's not like a choice. Whether it's a kid in school or an elderly woman or a middle-aged male, like I have to treat everybody the same. Everybody gets the same amount of respect, everybody gets the same amount of care, everybody gets, the same amount of fairness. So we can't, I can't not charge someone with hurting another person, I just can't do that, whether they're whatever age they are.
And I'm saying as
Yeah.
his mom, I have the right and I have the obligation to make sure that he is not subjected to that, so
You definitely do.
I won't. No.
Okay. But remember, this is extreme when.
Worst
we're
case
not
scenario.
available. This is like,
You guys are making it sound like
Last
this doesn't happen, because it does
steps.
often. There is a whole lot of documentation where it goes to that extreme.
So if he did
It
hit
gets
or
to that
bite
point.
someone,
Yeah.
what could he be charged with?
Assault,
That's-
battery.
Right, so,
Um,
no,
just
and it's,
depends.
no,
But-
no.
My question about this is that, this is only in an extreme case if you're not available. So if there's something happens and you're not available, what is the school to do?
But we've called Officer Smith numerous times on our crisis. This isn't unrealistic for us to call for backup, because it's happened
It happens
multiple
at other
times.
schools too.
Yeah, it happens multiple times, and would you charge him, like if he were to hit me and I say, no, I don't want any charges.
Yeah, and we
You
can break it down.
Thank you, that's
It
what
is up to whoever is hurt. So say he hurts you and you decide you don't want any charges, then I will not charge him. If he hurts another kid, it's up to those parents. So that's why we can't really sit here and say, well, if this happens, this will happen, because if that parent says, you know what, I understand there's some stuff at work here and we're trying to figure it out, we cannot go with charges, then that's how it goes. If the parent is not okay with that, then of course, yeah, just as if, you two got into a fight or you attacked her, on just walking down the street, it would be up to her to decide whether or whoever gets, beat up, whether they want charges or not. The same thing happens in school. Same thing happens in jail, same thing happens statewide, countrywide. We have no control over that. If it's me, I will charge whoever it is.
And a lot of times it just took Officer Smith to walk into the room to have another person there
Definitely.
for him to kind of see, like, okay, like let's try to calm down if he's able to.
Of course,
There are
yeah.
other times that he is not able to, which then was us to other things in the BIP. But sometimes that's all it took was just him there.
For sure.
Sometimes, but there was times that just,
Yeah, but there were
Didn't
times
work.
it didn't. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave that part in, but we'll add SRO.
For sure, yeah, perfect.
Just put kind of the verbiage that I had there.
So that's what we have.
Yeah.
So
And
do
we'll
we
have
wanna go back and accept this or not yet?
We can do it as we're going through. And like I said, these were just me trying to plan out how the meeting might run and how we might go with the meeting.
And I just want to point out too, this is not like this scenario, like I had the same exact conversation with another parent about
Well,
an hour and a half ago.
rejecting the proposal.
Same conversation, so it's
On
across the board,
The one about the
how it's-
CPI, we're
how it's
rejecting.
going.
Well, what did I put?
Parent will be provided a list of CPI certified staff. I think you said that was okay.
That one will accept. Proposal to change wording for who will respond, we're gonna reject that one because we're gonna
Okay.
leave it the way it is.
Okay.
The one where we're going to add school resource officer will accept.
Okay, where are you at? Mom wants us to only call if she's not going to make it due to unforeseen circumstances.
Okay, so that's the next one, but the other one we want, the one above it, we want to accept, because we're gonna go ahead and change that wording. This is very convoluted how special education thinks about accept and reject. It's,
But I thought we had that, Karen.
do we already?
Law enforcement may be
It doesn't say
called-
school resource officer.
Okay.
And just to be clear, he'll be called when necessary is when CPI trained people are not
necessary.
available.
No, that would
No,
be
no,
whenever anyone decides they want to. I mean, if you stub your toe and you want to call the police, then that's up to you. There cannot be any,
So when any
But
time
it's
any
when-
CPI person thinks they need to call.
Yeah.
that would be the principal. I mean, if the principal decides to call, if the teacher in the next room hears screaming and decides to call, it's, I mean, it's just like at home. You're at your home, if your neighbors hear you
But if-
screaming, they have an opportunity to call the police, even if you don't want them to.
But just like
It's-
Officer Smith, when he was on campus, if he heard us call code 4, he would
He
know.
He never come in wanting to press charges either.
No, and that's not.
Well, and
our
that's
goal.
not our
Yeah,
aim.
that's not our
It's
goal.
not, it's
Yeah,
definitely
I
not
don't
my
believe
aim.
that, not for a minute,
That's,
not for a minute.
I'm just saying it's a possibility. I can't tell you that he wouldn't be charged. If he attacks another kid and that kid's parents want charges, then he's getting charges. There's not anything that we can do with that.
okay, so, proposal to change wording for when to call an ambulance. Mom she told me like the other day when she was dying, that I was like, how do I, it's like unforeseeable circumstances. She's on her way from Albuquerque to, get out here to be with Anthony, and her car breaks down. Or something just really terrible happens to her and she cannot make it.
And just know, if my car broke
So-
down, I got family too. He's got family
Right,
nearby.
well, yeah, I'm just saying, if there's something unforeseeable that happens that would absolutely prevent you, and like you said,
No, you
death.
have to have my consent.
Um,
Mom wants us to.
Or somebody called you and said, hey, she's incapacitated.
so, right.
And I want to point out also, I can't speak from the ambulance staff's point of view, but it's the same thing as calling 911 or whatever. There shouldn't be any like, let's do this before we call the ambulance. Like, if you need an ambulance, you call the ambulance.
Well,
That
Again,
shouldn't
if you're
be-
gonna go ahead and propose that, then I'm not sending him to this school. Not.
And I'd like to say that that's like across the board, I believe, like,
Well, it can be across the
state,
board, and
country,
I'm gonna take my
um,
action to protect him, so.
and I mean, that's up to you. It's
I
just
believe
that that's
it
kind of the way it
says-
goes.
Last resort, or,
Well, they wouldn't be called unless, he was hurt or someone's hurt, right? Like,
we've only had to call them one time this year, but we do. Well,
Was he hurt or was
Officer
someone
Smith,
hurt?
yeah, Officer Smith, per everyone in the CPI room, came to that agreement, but he was in a very bad place and it was going to lead to him going back and starting from square one. I mean, calling an ambulance for him, yes, has gotta be a very last resort, but it also means that he goes back into the mental health institute and he starts from square one and everything that he's gotten to is gone. I mean, it's a very drastic thing for Anthony and for Tisha to have that occur.
But, I mean, the ambulance, that's like 911, right? You only call them for emergencies if someone's hurt.
We also call them for
Wouldn't
evaluations.
happen very
Evaluation
often
too.
unless, I mean, you have to call them.
Well, and as law enforcement, any law enforcement statewide, we have a responsibility. We're held responsible to call if that person, whether it be a kid, adult, or whatever, is a danger to themselves or others. So that seems like this is a situation where
Yeah,
that would
first time
happen
it's out of control, it'll
frequently.
happen, so, no.
Well, we have a responsibility to do that.
I hear you, and I'm
we-
telling you, it's not
I
gonna
gotcha.
work.
I
It's
gotcha.
not gonna work, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
So, you don't want us to put in any
So
verbiage
basically,
as
if
far
he's in a
as-
crisis and you come, then you have to call.
No, only if I
911.
feel that he's a
Threat to
danger
himself.
to himself or others. And that's, I mean, it has to. Like, if not, that comes from me. Like, I can't say, I'm not trained to say, you know what, he's gonna be fine. Or I don't think after I leave, he's gonna have an episode or whatever. I can't make that decision. So if if we're at the point where he's trying to hurt other people, obviously, he's trying to hurt other people. So then an ambulance would be called, he would be evaluated.
So as I just said, the
So
first
go
time
ahead
that he
and-
starts hitting people, that's what's gonna happen.
But we can.
Well, I mean, and that's what would happen,
Hit reject.
Any-
and say
well-
not parent.
Well, if we're proposing this, and this is what we require,
We
This is
accept
what
we
the
it.
parent
accept it,
rejects,
but,
right?
but you put in there, mom, that mom, doesn't agree, or mom
Right, that's
feels
what I was
this
gonna
is
say.
not acceptable.
Yeah, and you can take my parentheses out.
Right, I mean,
Those
that
were
is-
just my thought, that whole piece, because I was just trying to make sure that we knew what mom and I had talked about the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, just go ahead and take that piece out.
It's rare though that
But wait, we've got
you
a
don't come.
parent once.
It's not even about coming, it's just what he
Proposal
just said,
to
if he is
determine-
harming people, which he does, he hits every one of you.
But, and part of it too though
And
is
so
we
he's
have,
gonna be obligated to call an ambulance. I'm not doing that crap.
and we also have the room set up to where if he is that bad, that we can step out for a while and still be able to see him.
You wanna tell me when he's calmed down?
He doesn't calm down.
Exactly.
And if
My
he's not
point
hitting someone
exactly.
else, he's trying to harm himself, right? So then,
And he verbally
ambulance would be
states that as
called.
well, that he wants to die, he wants to kill himself. So, if that's the case, then yes, he's a threat to himself in that situation, and he would have to, and that's where I know Tisha is not wanting to
I
go
won't.
with that.
You can just call that out right now. I will not. I don't care what any of you say.
So what happens in your,
Well, what did we have in
opinion?
place before? Yeah, we don't talk about that though, do we?
I missed what you said, I'm sorry.
What
did we have in
did we
place?
have in place before?
Where he was taking the cannabis.
I didn't, do you have his file?
It's not gonna happen though.
I
It's
don't
not gonna
care
happen
what you
on-
say,
on
I'm
grounds.
telling you.
Not gonna happen, I'm sorry. Not gonna
Well,
happen.
then, we reach this brick wall.
Okay, well,
And that was in the.
And I wanna tell you right now, that whole it's not gonna happen thing, that kind of wording ain't acceptable with
what,
me.
what wording?
It's not gonna happen.
Okay,
How about you
ladies,
actually list why?
ladies, if this is gonna go this way, we're just gonna stop this meeting right now.
Stop it.
Okay,
So it'd be this would stay put then, if that's how.
so,
Do I understand that
mom
right?
wants, okay, take out the like her car breaks down. Because that was just kind of my,
An example, that was an
Example,
example you
yeah.
were trying to
Okay.
give.
keep going, as she is coming in.
Just
Yeah,
for
that
want
whole,
that out.
that whole piece, yeah.
Take it all out.
Okay, so mom wants us to, to only call if she is not going to make it due to unforeseeable circumstances. Then, parent does not agree to us calling an ambulance. To district calling an ambulance. And she has concerns regarding medical placement after that happens? Is that
Yeah.
a good way to put it?
I would put that not even medical placement as to Anthony's well-being. 'cause
No,
that
yeah, it's
jeopardizes
his well-being.
Okay, okay.
Is-
Okay. So we are going to reject the proposal though, because we're not going to take that out. And then we need to put in district,
Here or something.
another, so we need to put our reasoning in.
Do you want it at the bottom or is it?
No, over on the other.
I was gonna put another one in. Do you want me to do that? Or?
No, just put it in the same one.
Oh.
Because we need to justify why we are.
So I have a
Gotcha.
question about this.
Gotcha.
As far, because she had mentioned, you know, if these are all if she, you know, something very bad happens and she's not able to come down here.
Exactly.
So, is there somebody on her list that can come and pick up Anthony?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we need to
And
add in
that's
there,
what I was-
maybe family be notified before
Yes.
this is,
grandma,
you know,
grandma.
before somebody's called, before the ambulance is called, or before the law enforcement is called to see if there's other family member that would be able to pick him up.
Is that okay with you, Tish?
I just said that not too long ago. I said we had family.
Okay.
I would just leave out the before. I don't think there should be any, you know, there's not, you know, if someone stabs you with some scissors, you're not gonna call someone's brother first. You need to call law enforcement, you need to call an ambulance, and then after that, you can call whoever.
The event price is okay, so on the BIP, right before it says as a very last resort and if parent is not available, we should put in,
Parent or family,
Call parent or other family.
other support family.
Whoever's on, we can write in and we can just say who's on the enrollment form
parent or guardian.
and add whoever we
Because
wanna.
somebody will be able to come for him, whether it be your mom, your grandma, if you can't, right? I mean, your
We can get in.
dad, somebody will be able to get him before we get to the point of an ambulance or.
So, well, and hopefully, we're not even gonna get to this point because we've been able to transport him and give him his medication.
No, you can't.
But that's a question that I've been mulling around in my head. Are you the only one who can give him his medication?
You
So-
made that pretty clear the
Yes.
last time.
Okay, so caregiver has to be you. It can't be his grandparent who is taking care of him for the week.
It can be if I'm incapacitated or if he is in their complete care.
It just cannot
Okay,
be
that
any
clarifies
school
that one.
personnel. It can be Tisha or caregiver.
Yes, because they can take that card
Yes.
right out of my pocket and it transfers right to them.
Okay, so that was just what I needed to clarify in my head, because, you know, I kind of picture all these different scenarios and so, okay, so, so in a new proposal,
Okay.
proposal to contact, emergency contact from school emergency card, the hell?
I think we'd have to have it listed to have it accessible.
Well, just call the office and radio the office, it's not that, it's right there in
Just
Power
emergency
School.
contacts
Should
listed.
have the
Emergency
contacts.
emergency contacts listed. I mean,
Cause
that
then
could
they'll
be
know
in
what they
various,
mean in the
yeah,
office, so it
that's-
should be.
it's in that Power School emergency contact.
so you can put,
That's it, or do you want more?
Jean, yeah, I think that's fine. And then for,
Vanessa?
Vanessa is the one who proposed it. Oh, she's already there. But that's when it didn't save, so that's why I just said G on it. And then, let's do our
Let's say-
reasoning. Add, add step to include calling emergency contact if Tish is not available to shut. I'm gonna get it right one of these days perfectly. Is that okay with everybody? So we'll just figure out where it flows in the wording that we have already. This is- Okay, and the last proposal that I had put down was to determine reentry supports for Anthony's return to school. So Anthony has trust with
I know. Charity?
Charity, I'm so sorry. With Charity and Danielle, I don't know how he is with
He's usually pretty good.
Des.
Yeah,
and
both,
you.
I mean, you kinda up and
So-
down, but.
He has Mandy and Leona.
Right. He has a lot of people that he trusts. What Tisha is concerned with is because he's been out of school and he knows what's going on.
Oh, yes, he
is going
does.
to trust us?
He very much does.
So I had just put down, Anthony will receive supports from the school social worker, school nurse, and personnel he exhibits trust with.
He's lost trust for a lot of people, the people that he previously had trust for.
And again, it might be a day-to-day things, like today he hates me, yesterday he was good, and we're stepping in and out and playing, and teachers do that all the time. We have to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students.
Meeting the needs of your students. Yeah, that's good.
So, that's the part, the pieces that address the BIP.
Do we wanna accept that?
Yes. I'm just seeing how it fell in line.
Well, it's kinda out of order, but.
It's okay, as long as it's there, it doesn't have to be in a perfect order. So, is there anything that anybody wants to add? Is there anything that I missed as far as the BIP piece? Yes, no?
Well, you gotta speak
Yeah.
up and tell us.
No, you guys already know, I've already told you. My trust is broken. You want me to sit here and act like this is all good?
Well, this is the BIP piece. I know you have another piece.
Well, and I guess that including on the BIP piece is,
Well,
When-
you're sitting here saying that this kid has support. I don't agree with that.
well, and part of his support is receiving his medication when he's in a crisis, and I know that is a big
No,
thing.
not bringing harm to him either.
Right, so I know
Right.
that that is a big concern of how he's gonna receive that medication during a crisis, and that's, and you know.
Yeah, that's what my understanding is like the biggest problem is why he hasn't come back to school yet.
Right,
Is how to get him safely off the school property to administer the medication.
Right.
safely with dignity.
And there isn't,
You know.
as we've all already established. There isn't a way to do that safely with dignity.
We can do it safely through CPI transports. And,
I don't-
usually there's nobody really on that side of the school. So it's not like he's gonna be parading through the cafeteria. Hopefully not. Usually, I don't think it usually happens at.
Oh, there's been
lunch.
times where he's been elsewhere, but that's not even a point. How do you
Okay.
figure that's dignified? He's the
the
only
best-
kid in this district that has to go through that, and then you all made it clear that you can no longer help after you get him to school property line.
Okay, and I've talked to Joel a little bit about that, and I think that came from me, because in my mind, I'm very black and white sometimes. And so I was picturing you guys going to the property line and then, but he was saying they can step over and help you.
You're gonna put
Because
that,
like they've done before, you guys.
We just can't do it on
campus. and-
campus, right? As long as we're off
Well, we
campus.
can't just leave him in
With
harm's
our
way and
but inside.
Yeah.
Right,
And
we
I think
can't
on
leave
this
Tisha
team,
with
Charity's the one who has actually,
myself and Danielle.
and Danielle, you guys have stepped off campus and helped them.
Mhm.
So that part wouldn't change, and I think that verbiage came from me when I said we can get him to the property line.
How do you
So-
guys get him to the property
yeah, how
line
do you
without
get him
breaking
without
CPI training?
breaking CPI
Well-
and
That's what my
dignified?
question is.
Well, in another question I have is, I don't think CPI can be, you can't call it CPI if you're transporting a student somewhere to get treatment or medication. CPI, you know, once the kid is safe, then you release. It's not a procedure to transport a student. CPI is not that, as
Right,
far
it's
as
a
what I
crisis
understand.
intervention.
So that's why I'm uncomfortable with saying we'll use CPI as a procedure to transport a student to
Okay.
get a service, because then you transport them to get counseling,
Well, no,
just.
it's not during, it's during crisis. So when
Yeah, it's
this,
only during
this is being
crisis.
addressed in the BIP for during crisis, because during his crisis, he is running, he is hitting, and so the
Okay.
two-person transport, do you know
Yeah,
which one I'm talking about?
right.
That's what we mean, that if he is in crisis, that's the transport that's being talked about.
Okay, good. I thought it was a
Because-
transport to get medication.
No, this is during crisis.
Well, yes, that's what it is,
It is,
though.
but it's for but this
Well,
only happens during a crisis.
It can be to transport to a safe place, but I don't believe it can be transported for a certain agenda.
Well, it kinda has to be for this,
That will
cause
be
we
his safe
cannot,
place
You guys-
once we get him his
he
medication.
can't
Can't
receive
have his
he
medicine
takes
on
medical
school
cannabis.
grounds right now.
He cannot be mom cannot come onto school grounds and administer medical cannabis, so it has to be off school grounds.
Mm.
So it,
Well, okay.
do you see what I mean?
But I mean,
And
my
during
understanding,
crisis-
and I'm gonna have to defer to
Uh-huh.
getting more information then, because it doesn't make sense to me that we transport the student to safety, to a safe
Right,
area,
right.
but we don't transport them to get a service or a product or a treatment.
Correct, in
Well,
those
then is this the same
situations,
thing
so
then? It's the
we're,
safe
maybe
place?
we're using the wrong term.
Okay,
to
and that's
say
all I'm saying, we need to be real clear about
that
that
calling it
piece,
a
'cause.
CPI transport, just
Well,
say
Yeah, it's not a
that.
CPI transport, the CPI is an intervention, a safety crisis intervention, just in the moment to keep the kids safe from harm to self or others.
Right.
That's it, and so something after that would be something else.
Okay.
We would call that, it would be a,
How
you
do
know, a
we
strategy
ensure
to
that-
get meds or treatment or services, but it wouldn't be,
Could
you
we
know,
say use
CPI at that
CPI
point.
strategies?
Or just used to de-escalate and prevent harm, that's it.
Okay, CPI, well, that's
That
why
leaves
we
it
were saying
to-
CPI transport
Oh
strategies.
But it leaves it to.
Well, the transport strategy would involve law enforcement, the ambulance,
But I
But
didn't know,
that's
we
not
don't need
where
to
we
go
wanna
there.
go.
Okay,
What-
all right, okay,
Why
okay.
can't the
So-
school just allow her to come and medicate her son?
That's what
Because it's
happens.
against
Everybody else is allowed their medication. They said it was a drug-free campus. That's not, it's his
I
medication.
agree.
Every other medication is allowed except for that. It's like discrimination.
It's illegal under federal law. I think
So there's a lot of other
that's-
things.
Okay,
So
it's
a lot
a
of other things.
capsule. What's gonna happen to her giving a pill to her son? What law says that she can't give a pill to her son that's been prescribed?
Federal
It's
law.
I
not a
operate
federal
under state
law.
law, so
Well,
that's, I
and
don't,
it's not a prescription, I
that's
mean, we
good
have to
with
go to that point too, it's not a prescription, you
prescription.
cannot
The
get
doctor
a
didn't
doctor's
prescribe that to him.
prescription, no, it's not a prescription, you don't go to the pharmacy and get it. You
Well,
are,
it actually is
Yeah,
a
it
prescription
is.
because you have to
Yeah, it
get
is.
a
You have
doctor's
to get a
prescription
doctor's
to get
note.
the
You have to go
card.
through the
Right.
same
Well, it's-
process
you
as
get
every
the-
other prescription.
that's already been addressed, and we know that we're not going to allow the medical cannabis on campus.
Then it's discrimination, and you
So,
need to put it.
Cause other campuses are allowing it. It's up to the school.
Our campus is not going to allow it,
So
okay?
the school is not gonna allow it.
That's where we are, and that's the stance we're going to take.
The laws don't
So-
recognize it as a true medication yet. All this stuff is still in process.
It's in the
It's about its
works. It should
availability.
change
It
it.
hopefully it will, but right now, it's,
Right now, our stance has to be that it's not gonna be on campus.
So back to,
So back
how do we get him
to-
off to campus?
Right, and we just apparently need to title that
I think if we
differently.
get him, I mean, I think if we call you early enough, and we get him out to you early enough, it's not gonna be a problem. We just gotta be early. That first sign.
What do you mean, like to give him medication before he goes into complete crisis mode? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
But
That's not what a
she's-
PRN is for, and that's not what it's being prescribed for, and I can't do that. I can't just medicate him to medicate him.
I don't
So-
want, I don't want you to do that, but when we see something, call you right away, and you get here right away.
So, but how are we wording it on this? I
Right,
think is where
yeah.
he's
So
going
do
I thought
with
we already
it.
did.
You're talking about
Say-
de-escalation techniques, well, that's not in your protocol.
And that's already happened, all the de-escalation stuff has already happened. He's up here, we need to get him off campus to get his medication.
Then what is our strategy to get him safely and
So,
how do we word that?
I
To
was
get
calling it a
safely
CPI transport, the two-person hold.
right, that's to get him to a safe place, but
So
it's,
his safe place.
I just am not clear. I need to,
is
I don't, I
off
just, yeah, it just,
out. Right, cause
I
it's
think what he's
probably
saying
gonna
is
be
like, the
Danielle.
crisis, the CPI is for like just stopping that crisis right then. And so when that crisis is stopped, whether it be with the teachers outside of the classroom, from a legal standpoint, that crisis is stopped. So whatever action goes on after that is not a CPI action. It could be, I mean, it's for the betterment of the child and of his well-being, but it's, and I mean, that's your thing.
Well, and see, that's what we're saying,
where-
if the crisis hasn't stopped, it's continuing.
Yeah, I think,
His safe place
Yeah.
is now gonna be off campus so that we can give him his
So
medication.
then how do
I
we
think everybody
legally
agrees on that. I just think that would be on you guys to make sure that
The
you're
transport's
not, you know, what if someone is hurt during that transport? Is that CPI training gonna cover you for that? Is that something, is
That's
that
what
part
we
of?
discussed at the
Yeah.
last VIP
But-
meeting, and that's where we left it off.
And like I said, that's up to the school completely.
Yeah, and that's something like where workers' comp would come in or something, if someone were seriously
Well, what about
injured,
harm
we
to
would help.
Anthony? Cause I mean,
Yeah.
he does get harmed and
Yeah, he
he's,
does.
so I mean, what about him? I mean, that's,
So we could change that wording to.
well, I mean,
will-
just as someone who's gonna be responding, it's usually Danielle, myself, Tisha. How am I supposed to get him out there safely then? That's
And
legally
what if you
binding
guys
to
can't
this.
respond?
Right, and I'm gone next month for over a week. So
That's
who's going
happened a
to
lot,
look at that?
that's happened a lot.
The crisis team,
So then what is, that's where we need
and
it
that's what I'm just
clear.
looking for, is that the terminology
Right.
for how.
What am I allowed to do to get him off safely that mom is acceptable with, but that I'm keeping him
I would
safe?
follow the CPI training that we
Which
have,
right.
because we know that's tried, true, tested, safe,
Mm-hmm.
and it's there to protect the student as well as.
From the
staff.
last meeting we had, it was my understanding that you guys would be breaking CPI
Mhm.
training if you guys manually removed him. Like if you guys, you know,
Like
you
if we
can't.
picked him up
Yeah,
and
if
carried
you
him
pick
off.
him up and carry him off, which from my understanding, that's what you guys would
Yeah,
literally
and
have
they
to do.
weren't thinking about the transport holds that are available. They were just like thinking that they're just gonna pick him up and take him.
So transport holds are still CPI and they're okay to do, and that would help us get them out to the
I
car.
mean,
That
that's
would
my
help me.
assumption, but
no,
that's not
that's
what
where
they're
I'm
saying.
That's where,
uncomfortable.
this is where this all got messed up the last time, and I thought Joel was supposed to get more clarification as
Straighten it
to.
out.
I think
Yeah,
Karen
figure it
was,
out.
We're working on it. It's very
Well,
hard to
then
get
we-
hold of Tom.
Well, then I would say we
So-
can't, I
can't.
mean, cause
Well,
he
no,
can't come
Yeah, no.
until we can do this safely, because this does, I mean, this can occur every day. And so I don't wanna put him in harm's way.
And I kind of foresee it
I'm okay with
happening.
putting
Yeah.
CPI down, and then if they tell us that that's not real CPI, then we'll figure out what we have to do.
But then am I gonna be held legally accountable if something
No.
happens to Anthony when I'm trying to
No,
transport
that's
him
where
if it's
your-
not clear?
Your school insurance will, workers' comp.
Well, I'm not concerned about me, it's not about me at all, it's,
Right.
I'm concerned about his safety
And that's why
and
I'm saying
getting
if we
him
use the holds that we've been trained
off there,
with,
right, which I'm aware of those.
and,
It-
whether
it-
they're called
but-
CPI or transport or whatever the title is, we know it's a safe hold and a safe way to transport him. Right now, I'm not concerned that if it's a CPI or a dancing hold, I don't care about the name of it. I just
Then we-
want us to
yeah.
be able to get Anthony
Okay.
from where he is to where he needs to be safely. So,
And no legal repercussion is going to come on either party by doing that. Nobody's gonna call CPS, nobody's gonna do any of that.
no, because we're trying to get him to his safe spot. I'm gonna call it his safe spot right now, because he gave me that word. And that's, I don't think, we're covered through workers' comp. I don't know that it would go there.
Well, I wanna make sure because we've already had stuff like that go on, so I just
Well,
don't
and I
want to
mean-
fall under those circumstances and find out, oops, we forgot to mention that.
Well, and when we move him in holds, he does come out of it marked up.
Everybody does.
Everybody comes out of it marked up. It's, when you're holding in a hold to keep him safe, there's,
See, when you guys
No.
say like the hold, this is where my whole concern is that you're not going to be holding him in a classroom how it was getting dispensed before. You guys have to
Mhm.
literally manually remove
Which-
him and take
It's
him
extremely
like 20 feet
difficult.
right,
off of the campus from where they showed me.
Which we did have that happen at one point, and I think many people in this room can recall how nasty that got. And it did end
It
up
did.
with a lot of people hurt.
Well, can I just back up a second? Charity, what's your understanding, or anybody's understanding of if a student takes medication for some mental health issue, and they're having a blow up, a breakdown, a withdrawal, or whatever at school, and then they go to you to get their medication, and then go back to, I guess I haven't heard of that before. I
Well-
guess usually when a student has a meltdown, they kind of need to go home for the day. I'm just saying what I've heard in the past.
well,
And,
and I
and to
can only,
go get a medication dose.
well,
I can understand for diabetes,
right. well,
but I
that's-
just don't understand for mental health how that works.
I've had a student in EVLC who, she would get to the point of severe anxiety and mental health distress. I had a prescription to administer her medication. I would administer, she would rest until she felt better, and she would return. But it wasn't
Okay.
requiring, but she was not the same situation as Anthony.
Okay.
This is a unique situation all around.
That's
I
why
mean,
it's
this
so
is- I
challenging
can't-
to understand.
I can't say that what worked for that student works for him, because he is unique in all of his ways and how we have to treat him. So it has to be on a student-by-student
But
basis.
medically, it sounds like you feel like this would be an appropriate
And he could reach it.
measure for him. Okay, just wanted to thank you.
Is there anything
Yeah.
else that he can be administered here at school?
No,
Okay, well, I'm just asking. I
he's
mean-
already been given pharmaceuticals. We already went that route. And he
But he
won't
was
go back.
younger, right? And maybe things have changed.
No,
So,
they have not. And they
Uh,
won't.
It does say Anthony may be moved, CPI strategies will be implemented. I think, because we don't actually have an extra step where, when he gets, it doesn't say we're going to transport him out
It's
to
in here.
the property line, for better words. But it does say Anthony may be
We
moved,
can be, yeah.
CPI
But I think
strategies will be.
I think you guys
Yeah.
to legally.
Yeah,
You
so
need
I
to,
think
you
we're-
have to.
I
You
think
have
we're
to.
okay on the VIP.
I don't
No,
necessarily agree
no,
with that
we're not
either.
gonna be vague about it.
Okay.
Well, I think it does need to be stated that if that's our,
If that's your
Safe
intention,
place.
you need to put it.
right, if our safe place is off
Put
school
in,
grounds, then that's
previous
what we need to
BIP
put.
was,
I thought it was in there on the previous
It was on the
BIP.
other one. Yeah, it sure was.
I thought it was on there that you guys had to remove him from campus to give him his medications. And that's where we got up with the whole thing with, you guys would be breaking CPI training because you can't manually move somebody. That's where we were in the last meeting, and that's where Joel had to get some information, and we were waiting for,
Yeah, to clarify that.
yeah,
That's a big
some type of stuff from
clarification
your guys'
piece,
legal
yeah.
department.
Yeah.
Did we ever get anything from the legal department regarding that?
That we talked about the waiver, and a waiver is basically not enforceable, is what we were told.
For removing him?
For picking
Just
him
a
up and
waiver,
carrying
a
him off
waiver,
school
like
grounds.
getting a
we
waiver,
can't.
cause that we talked about, Palms, if I understand correctly. Said that
we
it-
went to our school
Oh,
lawyer.
the lawyer, never mind. But we were told that a waiver is unenforceable, so.
So then that says we can't transport him safely off
Right.
school grounds?
Using
So-
Because then that's where my
Right,
question comes in,
that's-
like as far
right.
as your guys' workman's comp, cause then
Mhm.
it can be questioned, well, it wasn't on school property.
Right.
That's where my
Mhm.
concern is,
Yeah,
like for your
agreed.
staff and stuff like that.
Agreed. That's
You
why I
know.
said, no legal repercussion would come on him.
Yeah,
And then at that point, it would
Fall on us.
Right.
right.
But if we can just get him to the vehicle, that's what we have to do.
Okay, but let me just throw this in here as a concern, is that can he, if what you're saying is that staff gets marked up, or he gets marked up, is that being safely transported? I mean, I'm just asking that
Well, no, that's the
question.
whole thing,
Ca-
is it's-
Right,
you
and then
know-
somebody decides that day that they wanna take action, just 'cause.
Well, and it's not safely. I mean, cause he could be injured, so no, his safety is
Okay,
at
so,
risk.
so,
when we
so
do
that's
that.
where I think we need to do more due
Exactly.
diligence in terms of what, you know,
Right.
of
How
what happens at that point.
Again, that's why I'm raising that concern. If he's coming back and Danielle and I are responding, how? How do I safely get him there? If Joe is raising this concern and we need to safely get him off, how? How do you?
But we need to identify it earlier, and I need to call mom, so mom knows. So
But
we
it doesn't
can get
even
him
matter,
out.
it's when we're getting there and we're doing all of this,
Right.
what we're just saying.
But if I
you
call
get
you
hurt
early
and
enough-
it's off school grounds, and you happen to be mad that day and you wanna take action, it's gonna come down on him and me.
Right, cause then the police could be
Well, I can
called
just
and
throw in
the
there that it
person
can happen right here on this table, and the same
Right.
thing can happen, it doesn't matter whether it's in here or out there, or whatever. I think the only thing that it comes down to is something the school has to figure out, whether the crisis stops when he's in a room by himself. To me, that's when the crisis stops. And that would be the end of the CPI. I think once you're deciding to transport him, then that's something different from the
That's
crisis.
my-
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying too.
Yeah.
And I mean, is the
That, it's
one,
very
So the
different,
cri-
you're
the-
leaving too many
the-
legal
Yeah, I think
things
the,
at risk
I think
on both
the,
ends.
what you want to happen with the CPI is safety, whether that be him in a room by himself or whatever, but, you know, then when you're adding that transport piece, that's why I think he's saying it doesn't matter if you call it a CPI hold or just a hold, it's not, you're not taking him from the cafeteria to safety, you're taking him from safety off the school grounds,
Right.
you know what I mean? So if something happens in that, how is
how are
that?
we doing it? Cause I
Yeah,
mean,
and I will tell you from most standpoints that, schools do what they can, and then at that point where you're like, he's in a room and you don't know what to do, that's when you call. That would be
but
the
then
call.
mom's not comfortable with that. That's not, well, and rightly, that's not where she wants to go with him.
True.
So that's where
How do you deal with Anthony when he's in a
I
crisis
give
and
him
you're
his
by
medicine,
yourself?
I give him his
He takes
medicine.
his medicine,
He
of
takes
course.
his medicine, it's pretty simple.
he takes it, that's the biggest breakdown is
I
he
don't
takes his medicine.
Do anything else, I give him his medicine. I don't even have to restrain him.
No,
Really?
Really?
How come he does it here then?
because
Why
we
do you
can't
think-
You can't give him his
administer the
medicine.
No, but when he
But he
loses
has,
control.
at home, he has.
Lots of people have a lot of documentation on it, there is thorough documentation on it. we had been at a place where we had to call police, we had to restrain, we
He
were
has
doing all of
years
this
of
stuff
it.
before.
Right.
We got this medicine,
Yeah.
that eliminated 99% of it.
So they found that at home,
That's great.
and she's able to, at home, it's a different
Even if I'm out on the
environment.
road, I can pull over on the
It
road
is.
and I'll give him his medicine.
But it's my understanding that when Anthony's in a crisis, that you guys have had to sort of force him to take his medicine and like hold
We
him.
don't-
That's
We
Oh,
don't
no,
force,
we
we
don't
don't
force.
force.
No.
We have never forced.
We talk
We
him to
have
the
to
point
sit
that
there
he's
and
ready to
talk him
take
into it because logically, so
Yes.
he is out of his mind.
So at
And-
that moment, there is people that are restraining him, correct?
We've had to, yeah, here, but again, at home, see,
Yeah.
totally different story. With me, we don't go to that point. When I see him going and he's out of control, he's
That's what
instantly
she's
got his
just
meds.
saying though, that's exactly
I
what
need
she's
to
saying.
identify it sooner.
But then
But then we have all this leak, because this isn't home, is it? It's school. And we're dealing with some whole
Right,
different
but
ballgame.
what you just said is that you recognize it and you give him his medication and you don't have to deal with him being restrained. And that's what I brought up at the last meeting too, I brought up the same thing.
So, okay, but here, let's put this
So
scenario
she
in
can
place.
come
I'm
and
in
give it to him
Albuquerque,
here.
right? I'm in Albuquerque. How long
Yeah.
does it take me to get here from Albuquerque? He's gonna be
I
well
know, right?
over that point.
Right. So
He's
then
gonna
we're
be
into
already to the
crisis
point of
mode.
hitting and stuff like that, you know? That's what I'm
But
saying.
if he's calmed down enough to take his medication, isn't he calmed down enough to go back to
That's
school?
ours, Joe. This
Well,
is-
then what,
He doesn't
then
come
why
down
keep him
till
on
after the
campus? So
medication.
why try to even keep him on campus if he's gonna take him hours
Because
to?
he wants to be here, he wants to be with his peers, and once his medicine kicks in, he gets to a place that
Well,
he can
well,
be
couldn't he
here.
go home and then when he calms
But how
down,
do
come
we get him
back?
home? How do we get him
But how
from
do
here?
When he's out of
That's the
control.
biggest thing, is how do we get him, you've gotta see a crisis, it's hard to explain. It really is, I mean, cause you can try and imagine it in your mind,
Again,
but,
there's
I
lots of
mean,
documentation.
there
so-
is, but getting him from the room when he's in a crisis to home to take it, get it kicked in,
How
bring him
many
back.
times do you give him medication, like here, prior to I don't know at what point it was allowed and then it wasn't allowed, but at one point, they were administering the medication here.
They weren't, I
She
was.
was.
Well, yeah, but you were allowed to administer the medication here.
Yes.
So, did you come like prior to crisis, or were you
No,
coming
they
here
would
in the
call
middle of
me
crisis?
as we got to this point of where we knew he was going out of control and he couldn't be properly de-escalated. And that was where I would come. I'd bring my little medicine bag and I'd come in and we'd do this song and dance sometimes. Sometimes he'd take it right away. Depends, you know, depends on how worked up he was. But there always was that administration of medication. After that, how many times was he sent home? 0?
But I think your question is how often, like once a day, once a month, once,
How
is
often
that
does
your
he
question?
have to take it?
It's
Depends with mental health.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with mental
there's
health,
no-
you
there's
can't
no
predict
pattern.
that. There is no set in stone.
It's so very.
Well, what my question is why there's such a difference between home and school. Like, if you're administering the medication at home, like, so you're not in Albuquerque all the time. That's my whole point. I can understand
I
if
get
you're
that.
out of town.
I get that, and I'm reiterating that the difference between home and school is that I don't have to take him off of my home property or out of my vehicle to give him his
She
medicine.
can keep him in a
I can
safe
do it right then
place
and there.
right there. He's safe, he's still contained. There is no further agitating him by moving him in. Come on, Anthony, let me give you another instruction to go somewhere else. When he's
That's the
already
difference.
hearing voices and seeing visual
Or if he's
disturbances.
hit me, because we've experienced that
We've
over this
already-
break.
But
Already
I'm gonna bring
experienced
it back. We've already said that we will remove him from campus.
But how?
Isn't there
So-
someone that can make an exception, like the school board? Can't we go to the school board and ask them to make an exception for this kid? Because that's what is his best interest, is in his best interest, is getting his medication. And it's up to the school.
At this
All
point,
this run around
the direction we've
and
been
no
given
solution
is
could be
that
solved
At
by
this point-
someone.
At this point, the direction we've been given is it is not allowed and it's not gonna happen on campus.
Well, we can't
So,
find
I'm
there's
not
no
saying you
solution.
can't go to-
We're
I'm not
not
saying
finding
you
a
can't do
solution
that.
to this, though.
I'm just saying that at this point, that's the direction.
But I
we've
think
been
there is a
given.
solution. I need to identify it. I need to call mom. I need to be,
So,
or whoever's with him. We need to be
But
on the
then-
ball.
So
But-
Yeah, but that doesn't
But how
help
do
the-
we
that
get
doesn't
him
help
off
the
campus
situation
legally
because she's not willing to
without
give him his
harm?
medication before he's in full-blown crisis. You know what I mean? So, like, that was my whole thing on the last BIP meeting, is I think, you know, that should be an option that, and I know you don't agree with me, but I really think you should go back to the doctor and talk to the doctor and say,
But
look,
we have already talked to them and they agreed upon that, because that would be considered doping to dope, and that's unethical.
So that would be
But
against
you're-
medical advice.
And
to
they
give
can
it to
take
him
that
at
medicine
point.
away, and they would by doing
So I'm
it.
gonna bring us back to the focus of today's meeting, which was, verbiage in the PW, or not PW, in the BIP. And I think we've addressed those pieces, except for, did we put the
But-
proposal in?
But
this is the whole reason why he's
Um,
not going to school right now, is because you guys can't safely transport him off of the campus to get his medication. That's the whole reason for this BIP. That's the whole reason.
Yes, it is.
That's the reason why he is not in school right now.
Yes, it is.
And we're saying that we can, through whatever we call it, whether it's CPI hold or whatever transportation.
Well, and I feel like after Joe's raised his concerns, that if I do that, I'm not doing it within legal ramifications or in his best interest or safely. So and I'm saying this because I'm the one who transports. I'm the one who, Danielle and I transport, so I don't want to be breaking this. So I need that very clear on how am I supposed to get him off, that this is agreeable to the district as well as the parent and the student. So I don't feel that it's clear because I'm the one who responds. I don't feel it's clear. How do I do that legally? Does Danielle and I, do we grab him and put him in the transport and walk him to safety?
But it was my understanding you guys can't walk him
Right,
when
and
he's
so
in a
now I'm
full-blown
hearing we can't
crisis.
do that, so I guess I'm not clear on how am I supposed to respond?
Okay, then I've had to do the two-point
Right.
transport.
Right,
with
and I've done it.
Kicking, screaming,
I've done it too.
wanting to lash out at the world.
Right, I've done it.
It can be done safely if you're communicating with your partner.
Right.
And he doesn't really have much room to move. If you are in there tight enough, he shouldn't be able to squiggle out of it. We have requested.
Yeah, I'm like,
No.
man, you guys really need to be in on. Have you,
requested further
hasn't,
training.
hasn't administration, you have been in on a crisis call.
has.
How difficult has he gotten?
His strength
Very.
is it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
In those moments, it's unbelievable. It really is.
That's what
So
I'm saying,
I'm
that's why
saying
like this whole
safely
got
he-
brought up the last VIP meeting, because the people that do deal with him during crisis don't feel that it's, you know.
I don't feel like I'm gonna be doing what's compliant with the BIP and keeping him safe, cause, I mean, honestly, when he's in that and he is flailing, his
So-
bone can be broken, and I'm not gonna break a bone of his.
Then
That's
is
where I'm
that
not
when law
clear.
enforcement's called?
But
Yeah.
mom doesn't wanna go there.
I don't think
Well,
that's a
that
super
might be
option.
our
I
only
mean,
option.
Well,
yeah,
then that
I mean, in a,
doesn't sound like
in
it's
Back
a
with
general,
this risk
like,
of
most
his
of the
safety.
time scenario, that's, you know, that's when we would be called. We would be called before that. When there's kicking, screaming, punching, anything physical, that's when we should be called. So I think you guys are trying to go way above and beyond, for him in trying to get him to stay here, and to make him comfortable, which, I mean, that's great for you guys to do.
I have a question then, so if they call you because they need to transport him off because he's in crisis and the team doesn't feel that they're legally adhering to the BIP plan, how do you guys handle him? Like, would you guys help?
Handcuffs or what?
Like, yeah, that's what my question
No.
is. Like, well,
Um,
I'm wondering if you guys would help so that she can administer it.
No.
You guys would help. Well, so what do you do? What is your role then? What do you do?
I just make sure nobody gets hurt.
And how
And
do
what
you do
would
that?
Yeah, I'm like,
Well,
I think how
For
does that
sure.
happen?
Well, okay, so from taking them from a room where he's safe-ish, then I would not transport him somewhere else. I would call an ambulance.
So, right, which leaves us right back to square one.
Transports him still.
Right, that's why I'm unclear, because then according to what he can help with and what we have in place, I don't feel like it's clear. And I'm only saying this because I'm a major responder. I come anytime I'm here and I'm available, I respond. And so I want to do what's right by him and the district at the same time. I want him safe, but I also want to keep everything according to his BIP and legal. Does that make sense? And I'm getting so many mixed
What that would be.
answers.
And that is according to the VIP.
So we get him out to the car,
Mhm.
and he gets in fine, we're no problem. But if you were having a hard time getting him into the car, would you like just stand by and watch us, or what? Would you
Yeah,
like help
he'll
us
run.
rush
oh
him
my God,
in,
like,
or
what do you
what?
do
I
exactly?
mean, cause if we all.
How do you make him, if
hands
he's
on,
a
nobody
known to
hurts,
be
he's
runner, I mean, do you go running after him if he gets loose from the teachers?
Yeah,
How?
that I can do, because that's, I mean, I'm trying to stop him from hurting
Hurting
himself or
himself.
And
someone
he's
else.
going to then
When,
turn around and hit
yeah,
you.
when they're trying to put him in a vehicle, that's just a liability. I feel it's a liability. I'm not gonna try to put somebody in a vehicle, unless it's my vehicle and I'm taking them somewhere. It's just, I don't see, any law enforcement helping with that. I don't see you guys helping with that, but I mean, that's your thing.
But yeah, and that's the proposal, to get him his medication, is to get him off campus.
Yeah.
Well,
I just don't know if getting him off campus is the responsibility of the school, or if that is the responsibility of that child. And,
He was on.
they're, yeah.
I don't,
She
I'm
can't
hearing that,
do
I'm hearing that, going, I
herself,
don't know.
obviously.
So I'm gonna respond and go, I don't know what I'm
For
supposed
sure.
to.
I
can sit and
think,
talk to him all day long and I will take whatever hits he gives me. I don't, whatever, that's not, I'm walking into that and I know. But we can only do this for so many hours, I mean.
And
Well,
if he
at
doesn't
one
get his
point, at one
medication,
point,
does
it
just
becomes,
happen
it
for
becomes,
hours?
well,
Yes.
no, that's where I would probably get involved in, because that becomes a safety concern for me, that he might injure himself, because you guys
He
are just
will.
leaving him in a room for
Yeah, he will
hours
hurt
in a
himself.
crisis, that's not okay
And he
with
doesn't
me.
just, and he gets, I mean, he gets to the point where he
Sorry, we
is
had this discussion.
physically fatigued and he will get to a point where he then is unstable physically, and I would call an ambulance because his physical well-being, he is dehydrated,
See, and
he
I've
is
already called,
overheated.
like, I'm friends with the owner of Superior Ambulance Services, and when we were, I was at my last home visit with her, I called to see if there's any way that the ambulance can help restrain him and take him into the ambulance, but they can't because there's,
They have their legal.
They're gonna tell you
Legal.
exactly like us, like if they're
Yeah.
taking them to the hospital, yeah, for sure, they can help and all that. But the liability changes when, you know, you go from doing your job to doing something else to try to help, even though you're trying to help. That's just why that's not
Right.
gonna happen, whether it be law enforcement, the ambulance crew, private or public, it's all gonna be the same.
So then how do we,
School person
cause
has
we
the
want,
same-
we
same
want Anthony,
liabilities.
I want Anthony back
Yeah.
in school. But
Yeah.
how?
Parents want him here,
How
they
do
miss him,
we do
they wonder
this?
where he is.
I know he wants to be here.
I think all that you can do is you can try to take the steps so that, you know, it doesn't happen, and then you catch it early, and then from there, I don't think it's your responsibility
But I know
to
that.
know exactly what's gonna happen. That-
It is.
well, there's no way that you can know. There's no way that we can sit here and say, tomorrow, this and this is gonna happen, and this is how we will react. There's no way that you can do that.
You're trying to say you're overriding a BIP and saying that we don't.
No, I'm just saying that me as law enforcement, I'm not trained in any of this stuff. I'm just saying that, I think I'm here for like a law enforcement, kind of, aspect. And, it just doesn't apply to us. So I just wanna make sure you guys know where the difference, like where the line lies between us and the school.
And do you want it on?
So this is all good. I'm just saying whatever we have to do supersedes this.
As far as-
It's VIP.
If you can repeat it.
But it doesn't have to be.
And like I said, I'm aware of this, so I'm gonna do everything, you know, having, spoken to all of you, do everything I can to make sure that we don't have, bad outcomes. But like I said, it's whoever responds. I mean, everybody's, and I think I'm trying to just set like a precedent of the general role of law enforcement and how you can expect law enforcement to react on scene,
yeah, you have your own legal.
for sure.
So,
Explain, yeah.
so we don't have an answer to that then?
No, and we just filled in another box, for proposal regarding transporting Anthony to obtain medication, group discussion regarding legality of moving Anthony so he can obtain his medication from other on campus, questions regarding whether transport would fall under CPI, questions will be researched. And then I just asked Cindy to just put down that you have had talked with
That's
us.
what you guys.
You guys said that the last time, that this
That's
would be
exactly what you guys
researched.
said the last time, that,
It
that's
would
what
already
Joe-
be looked
that's
into,
what Joel
that's what the
said.
superintendent said, and we're
there-
still sitting here going around the same track.
And that's the whole reason why he's not in school right now.
Well, I think our stance was, yes, we can move him.
But this
And
guy's
yeah,
saying you
right.
can't.
No, I'm just saying I'm not going to. They can do whatever they
No,
want.
from the last BIP
Well,
meeting, that
yeah.
wasn't what was discussed. You guys had said that you had to check into
The waiver.
Uh-huh.
the waiver,
And the waiver was not
because
gonna
you guys are
work,
breaking
right.
CPI training to transport him, because not always, from what my understanding is he's like able to walk off campus.
Right,
He would
And then
probably
at
be
that
just-
point, you
I
guys
mean,
wouldn't be
the
going
point
with
of
CPI
that
training.
Yeah,
strategy.
he would be
Right, and
drugged
He would
at
be
that
drugged
point.
because his feet, having been in these crises, he is not going to just, okay, let's go,
Yeah,
Miss
no.
Charity. In that moment.
So
he's
who
not
looks
gonna
into
do
this
that.
exactly as far as like how to remove him?
Well, I had looked in, under CPI training, because I've been trained, and I've removed students this way. Not removed them from campus, but I've taken them from
This-
classroom to office or wherever they needed to be.
So in your mind, we answered the question of, yes, we can move
We
him.
can move him.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
then
to
he
the
brought up
office.
the-
Or to a safe place,
But
but
not
I don't
off
think we
school
can
grounds.
move him,
To
especially
off
if we know that we're moving him off campus.
But
There's
that's
two
already-
issues. One, you know, for the purposes of receiving a medication dose.
But that-
And the second, moving him off campus, it's not a CPI, it's not a transport
Right.
process. It's
Safety and
it's safety and
de-escalation.
de-escalation. And if transport's necessary, it may be away from the situation in which the crisis occurred to a safe place. And that's it, that's as far as it goes, as far as
Right.
I understand where it
Well,
goes.
and we utilize CPI strategies the moment we walk in, so all of CPI is utilized, but there again, the transport
If
of,
it's a-
he needs to
yeah.
get to a safe
Right.
place, being
My-
off-school grounds to receive medicine.
Well-
Exactly, that's why I'm calling that his safe place
Right,
now,
and
that's
you're
where-
a you teach CPI, you've done this for a long time, Joe,
Right,
so here
right.
I'm like, okay,
So,
to
so
me, you're
I'm
the
not
expert on this.
comfortable with transporting to, it, because I haven't received any information or
Right.
training, or that would be a proper procedure.
And
And it
that's why
doesn't,
I-
it just doesn't make sense to me, so I wouldn't, you know,
Right.
we
I mean,
need
you
more
trained me on my
clarification.
first one,
But I
that's why
also
I'm
think
so
you guys
annoyed.
have legality issues that aren't being addressed with that either, because these two ladies are the ones who mostly respond to the crises that they have, and they've both stated that they get hurt, and they get marks, and they get
Right,
hurt.
to-
Well, and so does
Well, if
Andy.
you are transporting him off of campus, and somebody falls and breaks something, and you're off campus, I'm sorry, but you're- you're working.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that's-
that's why we did the
Right.
waiver, and that's why we looked at the waiver, I think, and then the waiver wasn't really tenable.
I don't think-
But what Officer Miko said, kind of, I think reflected what I said. If CPI gets to a stable place, and then we're done, Then from there, if the student needs to go somewhere else, that's something else.
Right, so
Um,
then that's
Take out
saying
whatever.
that.
And in my
Yeah,
experience, that's the role of the parent, the
Right.
guardian, or law enforcement.
So then that doesn't coincide with the BIP and how it's
I just
worded
wanna
then.
know. then
That's
we
why
can
we're
get
here, that's why
Right,
we
that's
are
what-
trying,
so that's
that
the
we
part we
need
gotta
to be clear about
Right,
what we're
but
doing.
with mom being agreeable too, I mean, cause mom is
Has
looking
concerns.
out for his well-being
Sure.
and
Yeah,
his
and I
best
think how,
interest.
if you guys
Right.
can't move him
Right.
with two of you, how am I
And
supposed
you
to
do
be
not want-
expected to
we-
drag my kid
Right.
off campus and supposedly give him his medicine?
Right,
Okay.
and that
So-
without
I see that,
law
I just don't
enforcement-
see how that's the responsibility of the school district.
Well, I guess I take it as it's my responsibility, cause as a health professional, his safety
To
and
be a
well-being.
trainer.
It's our responsibility because we're telling them we can't have it here.
Right, cause he can't have it.
I don't think that's correct, but I'll stand out because I don't think that's my place.
Yeah.
But someone
Yeah.
can say that he could have it.
Well, we've already said, we're questioning
Unless
whether.
it was.
I guess I'm not
But
familiar.
who could say it? I mean, Joel?
He asked
Or the
though, I mean,
school
and
board?
he was told that, they're even going even more, strict on it with whatever
Sessions. is
that
coming.
sessions thing just happened, and so he was advised that until that changed. I mean, we
Okay,
would
hold
hope
up,
it
what are
would
you
change.
talking about, the sessions
But
thing?
the
Joe
school can't
Sessions.
get in trouble.
Is that a legal thing that's been
No.
passed?
No,
that
but
hasn't been
because-
passed, then you don't need to follow it. You have no right to go by something that hasn't been enforced.
Julie, I'm just telling you what I was told by Joel.
So he was
That's
advised-
what he's gonna stand by.
Media hearsay is what she's saying.
Say that again, I didn't hear you.
He was
Media
advised
hearsay.
to not allow it.
Yeah, well, it's a federal law.
It's
We would
against
be-
federal law.
We would lose all federal, it would.
We're in the
it would
federal
be-
law.
Well,
You
'cause
wanna
there-
tell me
there's
we're in a
some
federal law
schools that
states
are
that?
allowing it.
Please do bring that up.
But
It's,
that's states.
we have it,
States.
it's written,
It's,
someone had
we
it.
had it, he got it.
It's in writing,
Group
somewhere.
discussion, do we accept that?
And those schools aren't getting in trouble though.
What's?
Well, what schools?
school?
I don't know, I
Yeah,
know
we'll
there's
just
several,
accept it. Did we say
she
we
sent
would
us an
research it?
article
Yeah, but
that
they're not
there's
gonna-
several
they're not gonna
schools
do it,
that
Julie.
the school
They're
board,
not
it's
gonna
up
do
to the
it.
school board or the
They're
school
not gonna do it. They
administration.
just stated that. They're not going to. They don't wanna make the exception.
It's a no. You were in there with me when he told us that.
I was there, I talked to Joel
I'm
myself
sorry.
and
Yeah.
he gave
So
me.
is it
It's a non-negotiable,
Yeah,
that's a
it is.
non-negotiable
No,
right now.
just-
Now, it might change, I mean, that would be
Uh,
fantastic, everybody
just
I
note
know
that
sees the benefits of
school
it,
resource
and all of
officer
those things,
explained
but right
We
now
have
it's
it
not.
there.
Well, it's just, and I'm just saying, because we can't
Not
come,
what you
we're
want.
not coming up with a solution
Okay.
any other way.
Yeah, it's a
I mean,
deadlock.
we're just
Mhm.
round and round and
Frustrating.
round.
So Cindy's just finishing up some of the notes here. We will go ahead and, print out this. Does anybody think we need to add anything or change any of the?
So no, I mean, like, we're still at this place where you're saying that we're going to do this, where we're taking him off campus. Am I clear on that? Is that here? Is that put down on
It
this
is
paper?
in the,
Is it sitting right there?
how did we word it in the last?
It's not worded in the last BIP.
In the last PWN.
Okay, so wait, what is the question? Sorry.
What we're talking about when we go to having to take him off school grounds, so that I can administer his medication. Where is that? Right there,
Okay.
on this paper.
It's on the last prior written notice. It says, parent has requested school support as necessary in removing Anthony from school property so parent can administer medicine is what it says.
Sorry.
We accepted that when Anthony is in crisis mode, support is necessary to ensure safety.
But then we went into this whole other thing where they're protesting and saying that's not legal. That's not me protesting, it's your staff protesting.
So I thought New Mexico did pass a law that said cannabis could be used medically.
Yes.
It is,
Well, it's medically, it's legal, but federally it's illegal, which is why
We're a
like
federal campus.
major hospitals, like major MCOs, like Presbyterian, Blue Cross Blue Shield, major hospitals can't administer, or they
I
can't,
can.
They
That's what I
they
think.
won't do it.
Yeah.
They cannot do it because they receive federal funding. If a hospital receives Medicare or Medicaid funding, they cannot give somebody medical cannabis unless they are stage 4, if they're dying. That's how it is written in the law. And the only way that they will administer it to anybody or prescribe it is if they are medically not gonna live for more than 90 days. And that's the only way that they will do it. Otherwise, you have to go to another doctor who prescribes the medical cannabis because it's federally
State
legal.
licensed doctor.
Yeah.
and we're a federal funded school.
But are you administering medicine?
So then it's not really
So the
legal.
fact that
So
we're
the
not
doctors
in-
are
You're
restricted.
not administering.
No, they're
medicine.
prescribing it under state law.
Yeah.
And like, just like I enforce state law, so like it's kind of funny, but that's actually fine with me. The administration and all that stuff, just because I can't charge it. Federally, it's a felony, it's a class 1 controlled substance, so I think that's where the school as a district runs
But
into
federally, isn't
problems.
it, because
But
you
that's what I
brought that
keep
up, where
saying.
you have to
You
have a
guys
certain amount
haven't
on
administered the
persons?
medicine. Have any of
For it
you
to be
given him
charged?
his medicine?
It says on campus though, it says it, where's that?
I didn't bring that
I
forward.
had it, I can get it in the office.
And I mean, whatever law enforcement that's coming is gonna be state certified, we don't charge federal crimes, that's not what we wanna do. or can do. So I mean, as far as I go, the law enforcement agencies, they're gonna be called, as long as you have the card, you're good
Right,
in our
I
ranks.
understand that.
So
Yeah.
can I just?
That's all good. I just wanted to make
I'm
sure
gonna throw
everybody
this
was
out,
on the
and
same
I
page.
know this goes against what Mr. Shirley and I would have to take it to him, but I took this concern to my school nurse administrator meeting. And I asked them, what are other schools doing? Because there are other students in New Mexico who are taking medical cannabis. This is not unknown, this is not a new thing, it is occurring. And I said, I need guidance, I need to help this student, I need guidance for the school, what are they doing? And they said that pretty much they turn their heads and let the parents do what they need to do, and nobody is none the wiser. I mean,
You have to talk to Joel.
like, who would report this federally? Like, if nobody
The
said,
cops aren't gonna.
and I don't mean to be sneaky and underhanded or anything like that, but
It's, yeah,
If
it's
we
not.
just-
I mean,
which one
they're
of us
operating
ever
on
has
state
been?
law,
But
we're
not only
operating on
that,
state
in
law.
order to get charged federally, you
Right.
You have to have a
an obscene
significant amount, that's why I'm like, you have to
iron.
have several pounds.
Well, I mean,
So-
you can be charged with any amount, it's just
You
that,
can be, but it would be
Well-
on any of you in
well,
this
and
school
I'm
to
not
be
even
willing to
about
call
that.
the DEA
but
to do
who
it.
would?
I just
how
don't
would
think they
find
wanna
out who was
take
our
the
federal
personal
funding?
the personal
Do you see what I
liability
mean?
and
And I just.
that's why I
Would we
wouldn't do
be
it.
taking the personal
Right.
You
Well,
would.
I
liability
don't
if
want-
she's
I don't wanna
administrating
do
it?
that, I don't want the school to lose
No,
federal
'cause she's
funding.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
administering
she can administer it,
That's a question I don't think
Yeah,
has
she's
to
the
do
only
with
one
this,
that
though.
can.
yeah, for sure.
So then
So I
we
think
really
we're going
are
round
taking
and
the
round.
liability.
So
If she
If
can
she's administrating
give
it.
it to him and all that stuff. The only problem is, you need the school or law enforcement or someone to remove him to be able to do that. Which is like where
Well,
the
what she's
problem
Unless
saying
the
is that
school
if it-
said,
if they-
unless the
On
school
if
allows
on
it,
school, It's not just to administer.
then she comes in and administers it,
then that
and
would,
nobody's
then that would
liable
be the
but
decision of
her.
the school to take on the liability
Then if
of
something
doing
comes
that.
out.
Cause you're an accessory at that point, you know what I mean?
So,
You're aiding in that being done, which is like, nobody's
And
gonna call and say that,
medication
I'm just saying that
being
that's a liability that the
Don't
school
bet
takes
on
on.
It would go to,
Okay.
it would go to.
so, we can add the,
They're not gonna lose federal funding and all the money that they get.
No, oh, no, I know that, no, and I don't want,
And that's why like
So-
hospitals don't do that,
And I get
because of
that.
the federal
I get
funding.
it.
If a hospital accepts Medicaid or Medicare, they can't.
you
So
can't
I
accept it.
I'm trying to decide if we wanna do an addendum or if we wanna just rewrite the BIP to include these pieces that we said.
I don't think we need to rewrite it because it's
I
already
think we
been
need to
signed,
talk to
but I
some-
think if you,
If we
I
attach
don't
this.
think,
I
Mhm.
have
and I don't think we need,
It's gonna take somebody to sue the schools to
Well,
change that is what's gonna
that's-
happen.
That might
The
be-
There's
laws
nothing
will
we
have
can
to
do right
change.
now.
The
Yeah, the
laws
laws
will
have
have
to
to
change.
Yeah.
And somebody's gonna have to approach the school board to make changes to that.
and the school board won't do it if it's against federal
Could
law.
we
It's
approach
too
them
much
Well,
as a
and
team?
right.
Too much money.
It impacts federal funding.
I mean, they're dying now. Schools are dying now.
Financially.
So
Financially.
ultimately, I'm hearing that we reach this place where he cannot.
I know, but
And
that's
that-
why.
so-
I disagree. I think I can find it early enough and I'm gonna call
How do
you.
you disagree though, because we just
I-
sat here and established. we
Because I
can't-
disagree.
We can't do this.
You know,
Disagree. You can.
from what I understand, you can try, or the staff can
yes.
try. We can't promise that we can read every signal and get ahead of every crisis or a meltdown that he's gonna have. It's just
True,
impossible.
true.
We can try
That's
our
true.
best,
Absolutely.
and this is in case that doesn't happen. This is,
Yes.
and that's what I understand what we're saying,
Yes.
is that that's, you know, what we're able to do. And we're just
Right.
talking about the situations that are
Just in case.
extraneous.
Right, right. And I
So-
get that. I know we need to do that.
I wanna go through the
Right.
bullets. On the third one down, where we talk about, law enforcement, keep going down. Do we need to put in school resource officer, or can we just leave it as law enforcement?
Where are you at, Dawn?
Right here? That
It says or law enforcement.
Yeah, so it already reads law enforcement, so do we need it to have school resource officer?
But school resource officer is law enforcement.
Okay, so I don't need to
It's a
change
synonym.
that word.
It says law
Yeah.
enforcement on this one.
Because it's the same.
So then do we just need to take S on
Because I said change third section to
This
read.
is to change one. It
Right.
wasn't that way on this.
I don't think it needs to be changed.
Okay,
The
so
school resource
say
officer
law
is the
enforcement.
same.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say.
This is the one that's signed.
So what
This
exactly
is the one
rejected?
that's-
is the
this is
difference
the one that's
between
in
the prior
And
written
it
notice
say
of
law
person?
enforcement.
Was just wondering if we wanted to be specific with SRO.
The BIP
but I
is
think
the
it
plan
already
that-
does.
So the BIP is the plan that we all follow
I think it
when
already.
we're in crisis
That's
or
why
what
she's saying why
happens.
even change
Okay,
it.
and
The
this is
prior
what,
written notice is
Okay.
kind of just like
We're just
NOTAM.
talking about-
These are
I just
just
don't
what
wanna take
happened
this into
during,
another-
I agree.
why it was proposed, is accepted or
I
rejected,
think we'll
and the
Okay.
reasoning for it. So this is kind of like the note-taking of what happened during the meeting.
okay, well then I have a concern, because we had, the whole reason why he's not in school right now is because of removing him off of them, and she said it was on the prior
Or is that
written
just
notice,
something we-
however, it's not on the BIP, and that needs to be added to the BIP.
With the BIP.
I
Say
think
that
that
again?
needs to be mentioned.
Okay,
Say that again.
so I'm just trying to decide if I need to create a complete document, or if I need you to do what we call an addendum, where I can just write in
Vanessa,
on
she
the
did
addendum.
I'll tell her.
Prior to this step, we will contact emergency contacts.
So Vanessa has a concern. What is your
Yeah,
concern?
my concern was, cause you guys actually have to follow the BIP in a crisis and not the prior written notice. So it doesn't state in the BIP and the crisis plan that you guys will assist in helping move Anthony from the school grounds.
CPI members will respond in addition to other staff members who can offer support. Anthony may be moved. And that gives us permission to move him to where he needs to be moved.
Right, but on here, on the prior written notice, it says that parent has requested school support as necessary in removing Anthony from school property so parent can administer medications.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, I think something like that needs to be put in the BIP.
That's what she just read.
Well, no, it doesn't say that exactly, it just says that Anthony may be moved.
It's vague.
Not on
See,
where or.
And it
for
doesn't
what.
say
And then
how
it
or
says
who
CPI strategies will implement it. It doesn't say anything about taking him
off campus.
off campus.
Right.
Or who will
But-
help
Right.
him.
But we won't take him off campus, right?
Right.
We won't take him off campus,
If he
right?
needs his medicine, we're saying we're going to.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're taking
But that
him
leaves
to
it open whether
her
or not you
vehicle.
do or not.
Which is up.
But
We're
her
taking off-
her
but
vehicle
sometimes
is
it's
off
off
campus,
But it's gonna be close.
but it's still off
But it's still off campus.
and legally.
So we're
That's
trying.
where we're
Yeah,
saying
I'm just
legally what
making
is
sure
it,
that
yeah.
all legal things for both sides, the school and the parent, are
right.
actually
Well,
added in
that's why I
there.
was making
If you're
sure.
coming to the agreement, all I'm saying is put it on
In
the
the-
BIP.
It needs to be in the BIP for legal stances.
So at the bottom, put down Karen will rewrite BIP and,
To include move him off.
Can we just do an addendum? Why do we
well,
have
that's
to
why I
rewrite
was
the
trying
whole
to decide
thing?
to do an,
I think we should just do an addendum. I don't
Okay.
think you should redo the whole
We're not
thing.
changing placement or anything.
no.
No, we're not.
Okay, so,
But you're not talking
proposal-
about a IEP, you're talking about a new BIP, right?
No.
She's talking
So
addendum to the
an
BIP.
addendum, okay, so you had called the PWN, the prior written notice, an addendum. That makes
You
sense.
worded it in that last meeting that it was an addendum. That's why I called it an
Okay.
addendum.
I did it wrong. My fault.
Okay, so
Sorry.
an addendum is another document
It's
we
an
have in
added
here.
document
That-
that's onto
Exactly.
this.
We can go in and we can say, we made this error, or,
So are you going to, are you
So-
going to addendum this BIP to put that on there? That's
Right.
all we're
Yeah.
trying to ask.
So you're just gonna go in there and add on to this and date it, that we added that, right, as part of the addendum?
as part
Oh,
of
it
the.
But
doesn't
it'll
work.
be
Do
in
a whole
here
nother-
for us to
Where
pull
we
out
gonna-
and
It won't,
use.
we'll have to attach it to the BIP
Okay.
to give to
People.
people.
But that's what Vanessa was trying to make sure is that y'all are gonna follow the BIP
Oh,
on
right.
that.
Mhm.
And we're agreeing upon that, all of us in
And
this
then we're
room,
gonna
and it's
add
gonna be
another-
in there.
Another page, which is the addendum for clarification on, we will bring him off campus and whatever we're writing.
But how am I gonna bring him off campus?
Well, you're gonna
I-
you're gonna
I
research
don't,
that,
I don't,
right?
That's where
I
I'm
don't
still
know
getting
that,
Okay,
so
so Karen will create a
are,
BIP.
are we agreeing that we're gonna transport him off campus to get his
So if that's in
medication?
it,
Yeah,
are
that's
we
what
going to?
my-
I mean, I don't know
I
that
don't
we
know if
can
we
agree to
can-
do that. I don't know, I mean, yeah, I guess you can, I guess we can.
I understood that
Mom's
that was
asking to
agreed
clarify.
upon in the.
The original VIP.
Right, but now that we have more information, do we wanna continue to agree to that?
Well, actually, in the last VIP meeting, it was, more of a, and I think that's why you guys worded it this way, that Anthony may be moved and CPI strategies will be implemented, because Joel said that he was gonna look into
The waiver.
the waiver,
Right.
because
The
you
waiver
guys
was
are
denied.
breaking CPI training. If he's in a full-blown crisis and he can't walk off campus.
And we were told, and you know what,
So is this what it's gonna look like? We're gonna have a CPI hold, and I just want, so that everybody's
So
clear.
I want
So
everybody
we're
to
in
be
a
clear.
CPI
We're
hold,
holding him.
and he drops or he takes off, what, we will try to get him, and then all we could do is put him back into a CPI hold. But if we can't,
We
then
call
that's
law
where we
we
enforcement.
call law
But-
enforcement.
Moms
And-
not okay with
Are
it,
you
right?
saying in responding to a crisis, or are you saying in
No,
transporting
I'm
him
saying we're
to?
getting him out of the building to the parking lot where mom can administer medication.
Because he's in crisis and he
At
needs
that
his
point,
medication.
Well,
How is
that-
this gonna look? Because we're gonna do a two-person hold,
Yep, we've got him in his hole, it'll.
and he's not gonna go.
No, he's not gonna
Yeah,
go.
and
He's not gonna
I'm not sure I can, I don't feel comfortable supporting that.
Right, and
That's-
so
So
you
that's
as
why
the
I'm
next
saying,
step
this is
that-
how it's going to look, cause we
Right.
can debate, but
Right,
this is
right.
how it's going
Yes.
to look.
And he's gonna
Say-
drop,
Gonna
he's
drop?
gonna get hurt.
No,
And we're gonna have to let go,
Yeah.
because CPI does not allow you to go
Nope.
down with them, cause then we're
well,
not
but
covered.
but we're not doing CPI, is what I'm saying.
That's what
After
you're
we get
saying.
him to,
Right.
So then if we're not doing
we de-escalate
CPI,
him
Right.
from being a danger,
Right.
But,
then,
but there-
then it's,
okay.
that's
So,
CPI's
but
done.
this is how it works. We're in the classroom, there's no calming him down until
No.
he takes his medicine.
He doesn't calm down.
Doesn't calm down.
He does not calm
So,
down till
then
meds
we're
are
saying,
administered.
because we need the medicine,
This is saying we have to transport him off.
we
How?
will have to transport him off.
How? Legally, safely, how do we transport him off?
And so, we go to the CPI hold, which is what we're saying we're gonna do. He drops, we have to let him go.
We let go, so he's not harming himself.
We can try to get him back into the hold, but if he takes off,
That's my concern,
Then-
because at
That's
this
why
point,
you probably need
Yeah,
law
let's take
enforcement
off.
that's why
called.
we need law enforcement.
And that's where
So
law
can we keep
enforcement has
him-
stated that they
Can we keep him
aren't
like
going
tight,
to
like nestled?
they're
Well,
not
and
gonna
that's
help.
the point when you're doing that
Well, we
hold,
can't help,
it's
we
tight.
can't.
Well, no,
Like,
I
you
know,
can't-
you
yeah,
can't and
yeah,
won't
it's not like
help.
we're
So
no-
it
we
puts
can
us
and we're
at
not going
this
to.
Point where
So
we
I-
have a child.
And this is where we
who's-
were left
you know,
off in the
yeah.
last BIP meeting, where Joel was supposed to research what to do
I
to
just
manually
don't know what to
remove
do.
him
I
off
don't know
of
what to do.
You
the
would call
campus.
That's
law
what
Call law
enforcement.
enforcement.
But then what do you
But,
do
Or a
but,
parent.
he,
with that?
but he just stated,
Yeah,
like 5
well,
minutes
if I
ago that he
remove them,
can't.
I'm not removing them to a vehicle. That's just like if you get an argument with
So
someone
then-
and you say, you
So
know what,
what
I want this
exactly
one.
would you be doing? Because you never really
Mhm.
answered that.
It just depends on what happens.
He-
If he committed a crime, we would call JPPO and they would advise.
But you would,
Okay, so
you're,
if say
but
he
the ambulance is
hurts
an option
himself.
for you guys too. I mean,
Definitely.
that's what, am I?
Okay, we've
It's
got
just- it's-
inside conversations going on.
So if he hurt
Okay,
himself.
listen
he'd
to,
probably
listen to Karen,
Someone else
Karen
would
direct
arrest
the
him.
meeting.
Please.
Well, we wouldn't
He's
arrest.
not
We
really
would,
hurting anybody, you might
Do I need to
release
whistle?
him to
Yeah.
mother's
yeah, of course. Like I said, about,
So
well,
he could
2-3
probably
hours ago now, we had the same.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
we're getting a lot of side conversations going on, and I can't track them all. Right now, I will create an addendum to the BIP to include these proposals, and we will attach the addendum to the BIP. and
So are we gonna need
make
to
sure-
come back and meet about what is being said?
Yeah, because I'm still up in
We're
the
still
air.
at
I
this
don't
point
understand
of there's
what's
not
going on.
clarity. There's still staff saying that we're not clear on how this is gonna go down.
Like how you guys are gonna remove him. That's the only reason why Anthony's not in school right now.
We are okay to remove him, from what I'm understanding.
with the CPI hold.
I'm gonna let you do it. I'm not a CPI
No, no.
person.
But, and Joe is the in my opinion, the CPI expert, so
So-
he's saying no.
Right.
And I'm saying I'd like to get more
Right.
advice,
Okay.
because it doesn't make
So-
sense to me, and
So then
Then
there
I
needs
don't
We
feel
need to
you
get
need to be
Anthony
here.
No,
back
if
in
needed.
school.
He can't,
That's-
because we're still not at a point where we
Can
say
we,
yes.
can we do some research and meet again? I mean, I know this is.
We're gonna
not
have
good.
to, cause she's
Monday?
not gonna send
Sorry,
him to
no.
school
Thursday.
without this being
But
situated.
I don't-
So
That was
what does
the agreement
Thursday
from the
look like?
last
I mean, I don't,
meeting.
I bet. I think we have meetings, I don't know.
I think maybe the question that needs to be asked, whether it's the school's responsibility to just get him to a safe place, using the CPI holds or
But
whatever.
even if it is the school's responsibility or not, how does the
it
school
become,
expect?
like, you're gonna just say that it's the school's responsibility, but then the school's dropping responsibility?
No, I'm just saying they need to figure out if it's their responsibility to remove him from the school premises.
Right, but if he
Is.
goes home for the day because they release him, how do they get him to get to her car?
I don't think it's their responsibility to do that.
Well, our responsibility is to educate, I would agree with that. So how do we do this? How do we do this?
Well,
That's the question, how are we gonna do this?
How do we get him here safely and take care of him safely for him to access education? And I just don't feel like we're clear on that. I don't feel like, because part of him accessing education is
Is his
knowing
mental
that
health.
he has a severe mental health disability and being able to address that and work with that. And I don't feel like we're in a place where we can,
So my
I don't
focus is,
know.
okay, these are my goals,
right,
how am I gonna get to these goals?
Right.
Boom, boom, boom,
how,
okay? All the other stuff is just stuff.
right,
So my focus is those goals.
right.
I'm just looking at next week, trying to find a chunk of time. Am I even on the right channel? That's Thursday, Friday. I thought I hit Friday. Do Friday at 1?
Are we doing the DD waiver appeal on Friday?
This is.
We have to, it's a hearing.
Is it? Cause I didn't.
I have, I've faxed over all his medical records that I have.
Right, and they've said that they still wanna go forth with the hearing?
Well, we already have it set up, that hearing's done and set up with.
So that's
I'm
on
gonna have
Friday?
to join that hearing by phone, cause I'm actually leaving out of town Friday. I will
So
be
Friday's not a good day then?
Friday's
No,
not.
Friday's not, I will not be able to make it Friday. We already have a hearing on Friday actually, and I can't even make that.
And it would
I
go
have to do
to
that
that,
one by
that's
phone
why it's the
conference.
10 day. That's why.
Thursday is absolutely booked. Wednesday.
Oh, come on, don't do that, dude.
We could do Wednesday at 12:30, but that would only give us between 12:30 and 2:30.
Can everybody do that?
What day is that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
I'll be here.
what day, 17th?
I-
Is that what day you're looking at?
I'm not here that day, but I don't feel like I have to be here.
No, but we will
When is
be
it?
in contact together.
Yeah, because your information
But
of
Joe,
what you know about
you're-
CPI would be helpful.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
hire us, and so,
I think
Yeah,
you-
well,
You're providing
Lisa and I,
guidelines.
yeah, we'll review it.
And if there's
Go
other
ahead and
guidance, I would.
You got it,
What do you
yeah.
want me to, Karen? I said an addendum if needed, because you don't know if we're gonna do an addendum or not until we find out what's going on, right? So,
Wednesday the 17th? Or the 24th?
very good.
what did you say?
What day?
17th, I know the day, but I didn't know what the time, so I can't go past.
I'm actually
Charity, didn't you
available.
say you're not available on Wednesday?
It says,
Is it on the-
I'll do it again.
questions, no, her questions will be researched. Let's review that one.
Wednesday the 17th?
Is the 17th an early release day?
No,
No.
the 24th is.
At 12:30 you said?
12:30, yeah.
Oh, wait, letter day.
Special negotiation will reconvene at a Saturday.
And the team,
Latte?
sorry.
I want a latte.
Is everybody gonna be here? I'll bring Starbucks. We need something.
Right now. Can you make a run, please?
So, I mean, do you want to accept or reject that, or can we even do that in this meeting? This one, I don't think we can,
Regarding transporting
I'm just saying,
to obtain addendum.
Is there anything else on the BAP
I don't
other
think we
than
can
that
answer.
particular thing, transporting him?
I don't know.
And that was just more just a statement.
No, I actually.
Tisha, come on.
I have addressed
Well,
everything that I can
I would just take
address
that off, because we
within
can't
this-
answer that
It won't
yet.
let us.
I know.
We
It-
don't have it.
And everything's been addressed really thoroughly because
Within.
clear cut pretty much, but this is just.
Discussion.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put discussion.
Yeah, the only
Yeah.
one,
About this
you know,
whole-
and there's just,
If you want me to start speaking up,
Yeah,
I can't speak
that's
up.
it, that's it.
We're talking about
Now,
this.
now I feel better.
Okay.
So is that a yes? Is that a yes on this day or is this no?
On
12:30
Wednesday, I think we're good.
What day?
Every
Joe
person
will be at a
here with
different
the exception
campus,
of
but-
Joe.
I cannot be here. He needs to be here.
Mandy can't be here.
Now I can.
I don't think that I'm a
Yeah.
key.
No, no,
element
I'm
in this, you
just
know what I'm saying?
clarifying
But, yeah,
who's
I'm not
here,
in
who's
district on
not.
Wednesdays, yeah.
What time?
I won't be sorry.
12:30.
12:30. Yeah. And then there will be another meeting in here at 2:30, so we just have to make sure that we're in that timeframe.
12:30
Um,
So,
before 2:30.
So you're gonna do some research then, and we're gonna be good, right?
mhm.
So this is,
And so
You
I
want
can
to print?
print it and,
do I have to finalize it?
Is it just Karen or is it
no,
kind
go to
of the
page
whole
2,
team
because it's gonna
doing
ask for
research?
people.
Do you guys need to do anything?
We're all gonna,
I don't
Does
know
Jen
if I
need
need
to
to research at this point. I'm kind of at a loss.
yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, there, I don't know
Well, we
there's
got a bunch of
anything
them
I
here.
can.
Alright, so let's do one.
we can, yeah, well, we'll
Let me
all
know. I
consult
mean,
on
we
it
can-
because
Can we-
your
I'm a
nurse
responder.
thing, yeah, right, it needs to,
There's
yeah,
different
but
perspectives on
it,
yeah.
we need to get clarify all that, so.
But I think it all comes down to, it doesn't matter perspective, it's what legally is it gonna come down to?
Right, yeah,
And that's what we need to know. I
Right.
mean, and
'Cause
then
even
maybe
if you
that's a
wanna turn your
discussion
cheek
with
on
you
something and you're
and
comfortable doing
Mr. Shirley,
Even if
as
people
far
turn
as
the cheek
what
on
the
cannabis, are you
law or our
comfortable
legal
doing
staff
that?
says and what CPI says, because
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you make my decision on that? I'm not
Anything like me,
No,
or-
I don't.
Are you guys okay with?
I don't need to talk to them about
Okay, well, I just didn't know if you guys wanted to.
because I want it to come from them to say this is what's legal or this is what's not.
I mean, we haven't even met formally, so.
Hey,
Exactly.
Hi.
how's it going?
Because
I know, I think I only know like
Give me
2 or
your
3
name
people
again,
here.
sorry.
Yeah,
I
Miko,
wanna know
MICO,
what he's
Fernandez.
saying.
Yeah, no, exactly, that's what we have to,
So-
yeah, yeah.
And I'm all the way from Albuquerque, so. I'll drive out.
Right.
So to be continued?
Yeah.
I'm not either. Well, and I don't feel.
No,
Do I need to sign
We'll get
anything?
this
Yes.
printed and signatures, so give us a second.
Vanessa, what is your title?
I'm his support broker, case management, healthcare.
There. Did you smart sticker phone?
And then we have, wow. Did you need service? I could put you here.
Is it Miko or Nico?
Miko,
M-E-K-K-O.
I was gonna say, you spell it wrong.
MICO,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
not like the rap movie.
And not,
Yeah.
Okay, misspelled that.
well, I misspelled Nico Gutierrez one time. And it's Nekko. But
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking that, but I wrote it on
Well,
a
that's
thing
why I
and he
said
was like,
M-E-K-K.
That is not how you spell it.
Well, that's why I said.
so with you,
Oh, I
that's
won't
how
get
I
mad,
spelled
I'll
it
go
at
with it, it
first.
doesn't matter. I'm used to it being.
Mostly everybody spells my name wrong. I'm like, Gutierrez.
Yeah, that's,
All right.
that's what-
Or
I
they
have a hard
spell
time spelling
Vanessa
that.
wrong, Venesa. I'm like.
Oh, did I spell it right?
Vanessa? No,
It's a classic
it's
spelling.
Vanessa.
Well, there's different spellings of that.
Yeah,
though.
there is. I have seen it.
But Gutierrez always have a hard time.
Yeah, everybody always has a hard time with my last name.
Well, my last name, people, they'll come up and they'll be like, well, you don't look Asian.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm not. It's German, actually. What? I know.
I thought it too. I'm not kidding. When I was first talking with Tisha, I was like, Ling.
Ring now. It does sound very Asian.
It does.
Yeah, you could make it into a Spanish curse word pretty quickly too.
Oopsie.
Never mind.
My boss
Was
is
there-
more
was
about
there-
it now, though. all
For
my,
example?
like, all my state logins for like the Medicaid portal and all that, it's like with the wrong spelling, and I'm over here like spelling my name right, and I'm like, I can't get in, and they're like,
Not fun.
that's the thing, and I'm like, can you please check my username, because my username is not right, it does not let me in. They're like, it's the right username, and then my boss texts me back, she's like, oh,
Hey, everybody look
I
on the screen,
accidentally
if your
spelled your
name's
name wrong.
not there, let us know.
Well, or if it's spelled incorrectly.
my name's spelled right.
You got it right.
Nice.
Many people,
I think people
well,
get
you
confused
too.
with the I's
You
and
had
E's,
no Y.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
I know,
just in
see?
general.
Yeah, so mine is a little different.
So now we can finalize and print
Okay.
and,
And I know, I mean, the good thing is everybody wants what's best for the child here, so.
Oh, God.
I know, everybody wants what's best for him.
But not that we're gonna be able to fix them here.
And so what were the other concerns, Vanessa? There was the BIP,
That's something
and
I think
what
Mom
was-
needs to bring into,
Okay.
yeah, no, that's.
I honestly, to be honest, I think it's better that you guys don't bring it up,
I do.
because
bring what
Just
up?
leave it
The
alone.
other concerns,
Oh,
I
okay.
think we just need to let them lie.
I think you need to let them lie, because
I
it's, yeah.
It's, yeah.
That's why we just need to figure
gonna
out
take her
legally where we
from
stand
here
so that we
to-
go.
She's gonna become escalated
It,
if she
oh,
discusses
like,
it.
yeah, it can definitely turn like,
Yes.
Are we-
and
so we
where
just-
I actually fear, I'll probably leave.
Okay.
I'm just been telling you the truth, like,
Gotcha.
it's not, yeah. You don't wanna do that,
It's all there.
yeah.
well, I do. There's like right for that.
How do you know which is which?
I think it's like right here, that one looks lovely.
They're
There's another
good.
one, I'm not sure, but.
And I'm gonna do this right thing. Anybody else?
No, they're not medical. They're citrus. They're vitamin C.
Oh, take a lot of that. I feel bad for you guys that are over here at school with a bunch of kids
Yeah,
and all
but
the
I call
germs.
that an
Right.
immune boost.
Yeah.
You just have to think about it
Right.
boosting your immune system.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
get sick and everything, I'm all.
That's
I go
right.
all school year and I don't get sick from our germy kids. Over the break is when I get sick.
Do you
I was
really?
sick the
Because you get too
entire-
used to your own germs in here, see?
Yeah.
But I will say our custodians
Yeah.
have done
It's
a
the adult germ that I got.
I know, and the flu's like going around, everybody's all sick. I'm all, stay away from me, don't touch. I've like canceled all kinds of appointments because they get sick, and I'm like,
That
no.
was me.
Yeah.
And then I get sick right over Christmas holiday. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I lost my voice and everything. I was like, I can't talk. Everybody's like calling me, and I'm like, I can't talk. You can text me, but I can't. My voice is gone.
But I think we can excuse.
And then it was all hoarse, and I was trying to talk to people. They're like, you sound really sick. I'm like, I'm not anymore, but that's why I couldn't talk
Sticks
last
with
week.
you,
Yeah.
So what are we doing with his absences? You still gonna unexcuse them?
She has a question.
Are you still unexcusing his absences?
You know, I don't have any.
Okay, then
piece on
administration, whoever does that.
stuff.
What's the question? Are you still unexcusing his absences?
I'd have to make sure on the unexcused versus excused, I know it's recorded as absences.
I'm asking, are you excusing them or are you unexcusing them? Because at this point, I have come here to reach resolution and we don't have resolution.
Well,
On that,
what-
I know that we had I know it was if there was the signed BIP and the signed IEP, and now we've met, so I think since it's not resolved. What?
I think that's a good question. I mean,
Well, it's
don't-
legitimate considering the protocol that's being implemented for unexcused absences.
Karen, help me out. I mean, I'm thinking,
Well,
we're offering a program that we feel is valid, or are we saying we don't feel our program's valid?
we are offering a program we feel is valid. We
Okay,
already
so
looked to
that,
provide
And that was signed,
that's,
that's what we're going
and-
on.
How is it valid if we haven't reached a resolution?
Well, it just is off of the old BIP, and that was signed and it's recent.
Yeah, but we left off with stuff that hadn't been addressed, whether you signed it or not. And this stuff is relevant to the
The
student.
signature's
Said
binding.
address, so I clicked
So
address.
he can come back then, or?
Well, he
can
should, we would,
He should be here?
we even, we're trying to provide, an extension, an outside of the school situation, so he'd be getting some education, which was denied. So that this would avoid even this until we could reconvene. Because we had asked, hey, we'll still give you some education just until we can reconvene, but that was denied.
It didn't print?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know what printer you have it set up to in March.
Oh, it might be the lab, the
It is,
computer
that's
lab.
where they were sending it, to the color printer at the lab.
The color printer? Okay.
No, it's just in the computer lab. There's only one printer there.
It wasn't there.
Was it fourth,
The big
fifth
one?
grade? Is it fourth? What does the printer say on it?
Oh, I don't know. What is it? I'm on her.
What printer are you using? Cause
What
there's one
printer do you
here.
go to, Karen?
That's what I'm trying to, usually I print at the office,
That's what I
Yours
thought.
prints to the office.
but this one's set up for every school in the district, so whatever was the last printer, and is Martha needing me?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
She needs to know something
Why
about
did you
us.
deny the hour a day?
Because it does not meet
Is that the
his
one from today?
needs.
But it was just an interim until we could resolve
I
this.
was just doing that so I could.
It was
do
just so
some
that we could
friends,
still
yeah,
have,
with
make sure
signature.
we
Still-
had some
It was
education
offering-
until we got
it
this
was-
resolved.
It was offering services that aren't services.
Yeah, we want,
It was
What do you
saying,
mean
oh,
exactly?
so my point is that we went from having this great, wonderful place of system of working
yeah.
to that wasn't working, we took it away.
So it's okay.
And you're saying that the
Office.
BIP
Thank you.
before was valid and signed, and then we moved to, well, he needs services off campus, and we're not gonna say why, but we're gonna say we're gonna implement that you're just deliberately holding him out of school.
Well, no, I think the reason why they wanted to provide services off campus was because there's, you know, the whole question with the waiver and them breaking CPI training, that's why the whole original BIP was signed. But my question to you was, why did you deny the hour?
Because it's going from a place of full service to 1
It was
hour.
just until we got this resolved. It
But
wasn't
we're
changing his
still not,
personality.
and you guys are implementing all this protocol on me, saying, nope, you're not bringing him to school, and you don't have a valid reason for not bringing him to school.
Okay, so the attendance is mixed. So, from when we come back from break, it says A, which says, pending absence. So I don't know if that's like.
That's what I
Not
put
out
in.
there?
When I
Last
put it in, it goes in as pending and then someone,
It's not there?
I
at
need the last page. It printed the first one and not the last.
At least
Okay, I
it's
did
up
miss
and I
that.
can hit print again. And print all sections. Print.
What printer does it say? Or
Upper
Or, well,
elementary.
upper
Yeah.
elementary.
Oh,
Thank you.
Should be
good
good
luck
to
with
go.
that, wherever that is.
I didn't even think of that. Printed, so at this point, it's neither excused or unexcused, so.
it's because I put it in as pending and then someone from administration or Amy or someone has to go and put it
And
as
then they
excused
change
or unexcused.
Oh, okay.
So that is my question.
So who's
Is
gonna
it
put it, I
or
guess nobody
isn't?
knows right now if nobody's doing
And
it.
it gets into,
Just
whether
hasn't got to
it's
them all yet.
excessive absences, and then they don't even look at excused or unexcused, they look at excessive.
Even if it's excused.
So that's how it's reported, is if it's excessive.
So if you guys did the hour a day, would that be like, you know, he would get credit for being at school?
Would it be considered
Absolutely.
absent? And it wouldn't,
No.
it's not a change of
She's
placement
not
or anything like that. It was just to make sure.
Till we get
we want-
everything
that way
situated.
That way there was no penalty of any sort, of any kind of absences until we got it resolved. That's what the purpose of that was.
But there was proposed at the library though, how can you count him for being at
No,
school?
because he would
Because
have,
you're
because he would
providing
have
him
the
with the
special ed
service.
teacher, he would be getting education. That way, that's the provision that we were trying.
But see-
It's actually, we
but
weren't
see,
even
I
required
have
to do that, it's just that we
outside
wanted to make sure we offered something because we
Inquiring
knew there was some
agencies
conflict.
going, why did he drop from full day of school to 1 hour?
But it's not a change of
But
place.
But it
They
was
changed.
it was just
It was just till we figured this
till
out.
we figured out.
We
the
got, we
whole
can't answer that yet, I
transport
guess.
It is a change of placement.
Well, I know, but they were just trying to provide some type of schooling so that he doesn't incur more absences until we get this whole thing with the
She's got it
whole
done.
like taking off.
Yeah, and it's, how long has this been going on already though?
That's why we wanted to make sure he was getting education in between.
But an hour is not getting an education,
Well, not
and I
coming to
have
school
other
at all
people
isn't.
coming down on me saying that's not sufficient for his mental
But it's not a
disability.
change in placement.
It is a change in placement.
It was, I was offering to
Yeah.
go and meet him, that's it. And it was gonna be short, sweet, to the point, do some Christmas fun stuff, do some time,
Just
that's
until
it.
we could get this resolved,
Resolved
so that
with
it's
the-
completely absent from it.
Living
And then
on
then it wouldn't have been
purple.
also
good.
against the family too. Do you know what I'm saying as far as our compulsory attendance laws are concerned?
You're.
So Karen, you have my cord, don't steal it.
Oh, is that the charge?
Oh, is that your,
That's yours?
It's me, I see you
I will
looking
give
at
it
me.
right back to you.
Well,
I just put one in here so I don't have to.
I think that's something that you should look at until this is all, you know, settled. Obviously, this is the second time we're meeting and it's still not resolved as to how to get him off
It's
campus.
not, and it's not me doing it.
Right, but there's no way going around their laws, you know, with the
we gotta do a sign, I
administration.
think, and then-
That's what I'm saying, at
Hire
least
a
if you
notice.
think about the hour a day.
It's not even
I know I
about that.
disagreed with you on that one, but
It's not even about that, it's
Oh,
that,
and
it's
this
that,
is
see,
mom.
because as mom, I'm torn in all these directions, and I have all these other people on the outside that are monitoring Anthony, okay? And where we're not understanding is that they're going, hey, wait a minute, now this kid is in school for a full 8 hours a day, and he's receiving therapy and all this other stuff that he needs. And now you guys are not doing
Thank you,
it.
everybody, for coming, you appreciate your time.
And so here we go again with our maintains with him, and that one's bull crap.
Tisha, if you'll sign that one page,
I'm
and
just
then I'll
saying
make
it
you
would
copies of
help as
everything.
far as the absences, because she said that
Karen,
at
was
one
that the
point,
that
when
we
it
did?
gets to be too many absences, it doesn't matter if they're
Tisha.
excused
That's
or
it,
not.
yeah.
Can you sign
We're
that
good.
one page and then I'll
Right,
make
the
copies of
letters
everything?
become.
Thank you, guys.